Chapter 471. When Bei-chan became crippled and left the sect, I do not know how many people sneered and ridiculed him. After all, Bei-chan had been standing at the top of the young cultivators' hierarchy. How many people envied him and were jealous, and after seeing Bei-chan become crippled and turned into a waste, many felt happy. However, the return of Bei-chan was no different than giving them a big slap on the face. In 3 years, not only did he not become a waste, on the contrary, he became even better. Ji-Yuner only thinks that Bei-chan had become more charming and calm than before, his every move affecting her heart. However, in the 3 years she did not see him, Bei-chan actually took a wife? Gongzi, I do not know who your lady is? Ji-Yuner asked with a smile. Not only Ji-Yuner, Yen Xian and the other two were also concerned about this answer. This was a heavy news. They believed that this news, other than the four of them, no one would know. Listening to Ji-Yuner's question, Xia Zhiqing could not help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang, who stood next to Bei-chan. Seeing the eyes of Xia Zhiqing and the others, the eyes of the three and Ji-Yuner could not help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang. Could it be the person next to Bei-chan? When the four young masters had secretly conjectured, Bei-chan had already put his arm around Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. She is my lady. Bei-chan looked natural, and as if it were obvious, he had always been proud of his lady. Ji-Yuner and the others' mouths opened slightly, and their usual arrogant expressions were somewhat confused. Although they had already guessed, they still felt somewhat preposterous. In the eyes of Yen Xian and Huang Fuhui, there was a flash of amazement. Earlier they had already noticed Bailey Hongzhuang. Such a beautiful person, the only word they could use to describe her would be alluring. If such a beauty appeared before them, even if she does not have any background, they will still want to take her home. It is just that if there was no background and family, they could not make her their wife. They believed that Bei-chan was definitely not a person who was confused by a beauty. How had this beauty ensnared him? Gongzi, I don't know which family this girl belongs to? Ji-Yuner asked tentatively. When she grew up in her family, she knew very well that some people they could not afford to offend. Therefore, the most important thing to do before anything else was to understand the other person's identity. Otherwise, once you offend someone, you cannot afford to offend, you can't help yourself. She is not the daughter of a cultivation family. Oh. Ji-Yuner raised her brows and looked puzzled. I didn't even hear which martial arts sect this young miss is from. Yen Xian looked at her as if slowly matching her up to all the young misses in their generation. They had heard of many people, but for this person they were really blank. I am just a student of Tsonglan College, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. From the performance of Ji-Yuner, she already knew the idea of Ji-Yuner. Since they want to know her identity, she did not mind directly telling them. With the voice of Bailey Hongzhuang falling, the eyes of the four people changed for a few moments. Although their hearts were full of hundreds of thought, they suspected that Bailey Hongzhuang was not cheating them. In the end, they believed the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, because Bailey Hongzhuang would gain nothing from deceiving them. Chapter 472. A commoner. Gongzi, she is just a commoner. Why did you take her as your wife? Ji-Yuner chuckled, and her eyes looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, which originally displayed caution, now displayed mockery and disdain. She was previously worried, but this woman in front of her was nothing more than the grass underneath that could not pose any threat to her. This kind of woman, even if Bei-chan truly liked her, it was only based on beauty, nothing could ever make her Bei-chan's true wife. As long as she killed Bailey Hongzhuang, then Bei-chan would be single. Xia Zhiqing frowned and had been drawing closer to Bei-chan since Ji-Yuner appeared. She looked very upset. Even now, Ji-Yuner dared to look down at Hongzhuang? It was too much. Hongzhuang is not a commoner. She is the daughter of a general. Xia Zhiqing blurted out. However, Ji-Yuner's smile on her face only grew deeper and was infected with a touch of irony. A general's daughter? Haha, what is the difference in status between that and a commoner? Isn't she simply a civilian? Ji-Yuner's face was filled with mockery. In this vast world, did the daughter of a general still count? Nothing exists in their eyes, even the emperor can't count. How did you talk to her? Xia Zhiqing was furious. You kneel. The next moment Ji-Yuner's face was gloomy, her eyes filled with rage. What did you say? Feeling the thick murderous intent of Ji-Yuner, Xia Zhiqing's face also changed a bit. She knew clearly that she could not compare with Ji Yuner or her background. It may even be that her words could bring infinite disaster to her family. However, Xia Zhiqing's expression eventually became firm. How could she bear it when Ji Yuner insulted Hong Zhuang like this? When Xia Zhiqing was ready to retort, Bailey Hong Zhuang slowly said, "I am a commoner. But aren't you two nothing if not for your family?" Bailey Hong Zhuang shook her head slightly, her face calm despite Ji Yuner's words, not showing the slightest tension, and instead displayed contempt for Ji Yuner. As the young head of an aristocratic family in the past, she had not only seen many such things but also learned many lessons. How could she be afraid of Ji Yuner? Seeing that Bailey Hong Zhuang dared to take initiative to make trouble, Ji Yuner's eyes became gloomier, and the light of spite and rage constantly flashed through. "You can't say the grapes are sour without tasting them. I was born with a status and am bound to be stronger than you." Yanling Xian didn't say anything. They all knew that Ji Yuner had always had ideas on Di Beichan, not to mention after knowing the status of Bailey Hong Zhuang. They also understood that Bailey Hong Zhuang was just a temporary flame. If Ji Yuner wanted, it wouldn't take much to have Bailey Hong Zhuang completely disappear from this world. "You are really too much." Xia Zhiqing could not help but shout. She had seen many hateful women, but this Ji Yuner was the worst. Bai Junyu patted Xia Zhiqing's shoulder before whispering, "You don't worry. Bailey Hong Zhuang is not one to be bullied. Not to mention Di Beichan will not let Bailey Hong Zhuang be bullied." He knew Bailey Hong Zhuang. Although not for a long time, he had personally witnessed how those who offended her were punished. Chapter 473 Admirable Shamelessness. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo's brows wrinkled. This Ji Yuner was full of unpleasant words and sentences. However, it was now apparent that this was a battle between two women for a man's attention. If they were to interfere, it would be inappropriate. Lu Qinyu's gaze was very complicated. From the words of the two teachers just now, she already knew the identity of Ji Yuner and Yanling Xian. As a talented alchemist, the scope of her exposure was even wider than that of ordinary cultivators. Therefore, she knows what kind of status Di Beichan had. However, Di Beichan was determined to be with Bailey Hong Zhuang. Even when he talked about her, it would be with pride. Not many men would do it. As a woman, she was sensitive to feelings. From the performance of Ji Yuner, it was obvious that she had some thoughts on Di Beichan, but Di Beichan was not interested in Ji Yuner or her background. Instead, he wanted to follow Bailey Hong Zhuang every day. As soon as she thought of this, her heart was envious. Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu looked at each other, both of them showing extreme disgust for Ji Yuner. This woman, even if all the women under the sun were dead, they would still not be willing to like her. The vision of Di Beichan was excellent. Through this scene, they already understood the difference in status between Di Beichan and Bailey Hong Zhuang, but they did not think that Bailey Hong Zhuang was unworthy of Di Beichan. On the contrary, with the ability of Bailey Hong Zhuang so far, it was impossible to believe that she was an ordinary woman. With her amazing medical technique and the long-lost art of acupuncture. Once the news of this spread, it is unknown how many forces would scramble to bring Bailey Hong Zhuang over to their side. Bailey Hong Zhuang's lips curved slightly, her exquisitely beautiful face expressing an enchanting and charming smile. She suddenly took Di Beichan's hand and nestled herself against his shoulder. "You can't say the grapes are sour without tasting them. It's exactly as you said." Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled and blinked slowly. She was mocking her by copying her words. Ji Yuner wanted to humiliate her. She had to go back and practice for a few hundred years first. Sure enough, as soon as Bailey Hong Zhuang said that, Ji Yuner's face became ugly to the extreme. The same sentence from Bailey Hong Zhuang's mouth was extremely ironic, but she did not know what to say to refute. Di Beichan's eyes flashed with brilliance. His lady was extraordinary. She did not feel the slightest bit pressured when facing Ji Yuner. The most important thing was that his wifey has made such an intimate gesture for the first time. He had to thank Ji Yuner for that. "You are just shameless." Bailey Hong Zhuang's head bent slightly, her delicate chin raised, still smiling, but her dark eyes were flashing with coldness like that of a perpetually frozen mountain. "I am shameless?" Bailey Hong Zhuang laughed. "This Mrs. ability for shamelessness makes me admire." Bailey Hong Zhuang suddenly took a step forwards, narrowing the distance between her and Ji Yuner, her face becoming more and more sharp and ruthless. In front of me, seducing my husband and then daring to say I am shameless. Chapter 474 Not worth it. I didn't know cultivation family cultivated such excellent children. The irony in Bailey Hongzhuang's last sentence was extreme. Her face was arrogant, and not the slightest bit pressured, almost like she did not care for this matter at all. Bai Junyu and the others secretly thought, to fight against Bailey Hongzhuang was a very bad idea. So far, they had never seen Bailey Hongzhuang suffer a loss in a verbal fight. Ji Yuner really had dug herself a pit. Yanling Xian and the other two were also happy, although they were familiar with Ji Yuner, as the outstanding young generation of different forces. There was a lot of competition between them. It would be unnatural if their relationship was too good. If Ji Yuner really wanted to get together with Di Bei-chan, why should they worry about that? There was no conflict of interest between them, and Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei-chan. They don't have to make unnecessary trouble. Usually Ji Yuner is very domineering. I did not expect for her to be defeated. This is really interesting. Lin Yiro laughed lightly. She had a completely different character from Ji Yuner, and preferred to be more down-to-earth compared to her peers. Now that she has seen Ji Yuner eat a loss, she was also very happy. Yanling Xian smiled and nodded. I don't think this Bailey Hongzhuang is an ordinary person. How else would she have the courage to fight with Ji Yuner? I don't mind seeing a good show anyway. With both his hands folded over his chest, he sounded careless and indifferent. Ji Yuner's eyes were full of resentment. This Bailey Hongzhuang, she would remember her. By the end of this expedition, she would certainly take Bailey Hongzhuang's life. You simply do not deserve to be the wife of Di Gongzi. Ji Yuner hid her previous expression, but her face was still black. I'm not worth him. You can match? Compared to Ji Yuner, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was tranquil like the clouds. Even in the face of Ji Yuner's mocking words, she would reply calmly. Taking advantage of the friction between the two people, the others could not help but think secretly in their hearts that Bailey Hongzhuang was actually a lot better than that Ji Yuner. If other women heard Ji Yuner's taunts, I'm afraid they could no longer stand it, but Bailey Hongzhuang simply did not put her in her eyes. From this point alone, Bailey Hongzhuang was very different from other women. Miss Ji, I will advise you something. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips arched slightly. Her face looked harmless and full of goodwill. If a woman rushes to throw herself onto others, she's not worth it. After this, everyone was speechless. After hearing this, many could not help but give her a thumbs up. Awesome. She was so domineering. She first fought with Miss Ji, and now told her she was worthless. This was the first time Ji Yuner faced such humiliation. However, they thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's words were very reasonable. Xia Jiqing couldn't help but chuckle. Hongzhuang was great. This retort was awesome and very domineering. She'd like to see what Ji Yuner could say. Xiaobai, Xiaohe and Baisha were very proud. Their owner's corner was so easy to dig. Chapter 475 Becoming Angry, You're Looking for Death. Hearing such offensive words from Bailey Hongzhuang, Ji Yuner finally became angry. From when she was small to now, no one had dared to talk to her in this tone. As for being called worthless, it was even more impossible. However, at this moment she was actually being insulted by this commoner who should be kneeling down and letting everyone see a joke. How could she accept it? The next moment, a faint red glow emerged from Ji Yuner's body and hands. Seeing this faint red light, Xia Jiqing and the others could not help but be slightly shocked. Hongzhuang. This light can only be possessed by someone who is a Hong red boundary cultivator. Cui Haoyan exclaimed, his eyes full of disbelief. The cultivation realm was divided into the acquired realm and congenital realm, both of which were distinct levels. Most cultivators could only achieve the acquired realm as long as they worked hard. However, only the congenital realm was the path to becoming a real cultivator. After the cultivators entered the congenital realm, their yuan li would change with their advancement in the realm. The congenital realm was divided into the Hong, red, border, Cheng, orange border, Huang, yellow border, Lu, green, border, Lan, blue border, and Zi, purple border. And each level displayed its own special light. Each boundary was further subdivided into 9 levels. The higher the level, the richer the color. Although the light glowing from Ji Yuner's hands was very faint, the red light couldn't escape everyone's attention. Obviously, Ji Yuner had already reached the first level of Hong, red, boundary. Previously Gong Shaoqing and the others were disrespectful to Ji Yuner. At this moment they were shocked knowing her strength. The age of Ji Yuner was only 16 or 17, but her strength was actually at the first level of the Hong, red, boundary. They had a really big gap between them. Even if they already knew that the strength of cultivators from a cultivating family would far exceed that of normal cultivators, they would not be able to imagine this gap without personally seeing it. After all, they were also considered to be very talented cultivators. As special enrollment student of Songlan College, they had always been proud. However, at this moment they knew how big the gap between them was. As time went on, the gap between their strength and the children of these families would only grow bigger. If they did not have a huge chance, a huge gap would eventually arise between them. After all, the children of cultivation families had rich resources for cultivation, and even if they weren't talented, they could turn into proud geniuses, just with the help of the countless cultivation resources. This was the real difference between ordinary cultivators and those belonging to a cultivation family. The family's children had unlimited resources for cultivation since they were born, but they needed to find opportunities for the same. Bai Junyu and the others showed expressions of shock. At the same time, Ji Yuner felt more and more that they were simply a group of unfamiliar simpletons. She moved very fast and did not hesitate to move against Bailey Hongzhuang. The one whose face she couldn't stand any longer was her. Obviously, her family status was far stronger than Bailey Hongzhuang's, but why did that Bailey Hongzhuang act like she was better than her? It was really hateful. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was icy, and a sliver of light flashed between her fingers. She knows that with her strength she was not Ji Yuner's adversary, but it did not mean she was completely helpless against her. When Ji Yuner's attack was about to hit Bailey Hongzhuang's body, Di Beichun directly blocked her attack. Just a small move and Ji Yuner's bloodthirsty aura became invisible as it dissipated in an instant. His tremendous strength made Ji Yuner go back a few steps. Looking at Di Beichun, she revealed a bit of surprise. Ji Yuner, if you dare to go against my wife in the slightest, the consequences of that will be your own to bear. Di Beichun's lips were pressed together, his cold voice filled with icy warning, that handsome face not the slightest bit soft. If it was only a verbal fight, how good his own wife was, he had always been very clear. Besides, if it wasn't the case, how could Bailey Hongzhuang be recognized as his wife? Others may not know, but he knew the pride that his wife had, so he had stood by without talking. However, once Ji Yuner attacked, the situation became completely different. Whoever dares to harm his wife, he will not forgive them. Hearing his words, Ji Yuner's heart suffered a shock. There were years of friendship between her and Di Beichun. Now for such an ordinary person he dared to say such things to her? Di Gongzi, how can you do this to me? Ji Yuner's eyes flashed with incredulity. Di Beichun was actually ignoring years of friendship. Miss Ji, from the beginning to the end, my wife was just doing what she should do. Di Beichun's hands held Bailey Hongzhuang's, and the protective intent behind it was clear. Since Hongzhuang is my wife, she is naturally one of my people. Whoever dares to go against her is against me. Di Beichun's words were firm and decisive, without the slightest bit of hesitation. Obviously, he would stand by this no matter what. In past 3 years he had experienced a lot of things. The ones that he cares about absolutely can't be bullied by anyone. Yan Lingxian and the others were speechless. It seemed that they had still underestimated the degree to which Di Beichun cared for Bailey Hongzhuang. Especially, Yan Lingxian and Huang Fuhui felt even more clear about this. As men, the significance of Di Beichun's remark was obvious to them. Previously, they had only felt that Di Beichun had liked Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance. Now it seemed like he really did like her. These children from various forces had a very calculative nature, and they had been calculating for their interests since the beginning. If something did not meet their interest, they will never do it. The only thing that allows them to abandon their interest is none other than true feelings. Di Beichun's current attitude proved everything. Great! Xiao He patted his hands. I didn't misread Di Beichun. This woman still counts as something? Our master has only cultivated for a year, but this woman has been cultivating for more than 10 years. Ha! Xiao Bai shrieked, what genius! Their master was the well-deserved genius. We should kill her. Baisher's face was cold. How dare she try to kill their master? Ji Yun'er's face was blank and timid. Di Beichen's remarks gave her no room to speak at all. It was just that her inner heart couldn't help but continue shouting at her like crazy. She knew both her strength and family background were stronger than Bailey Hongzhuang's. Yet her Di Gongzi protected Bailey Hongzhuang so fiercely. Where does she have any face left? So what about Han Xiling? Ji Yun'er asked. If Han Xiling were to also go against Bailey Hongzhuang, you'll fight with Han Xiling her too? Ji Yun'er's grim face was full of envy. Since Di Beichan had already made her lose face, she does not mind adding oil to the fire. No matter what, she wouldn't let Bailey Hongzhuang continue to be so proud. When this remark was heard, the atmosphere turned momentarily tense. Xia Zhiqing and the others groaned in disbelief at Ji Yun'er and Di Beichan. They simply didn't understand what Ji Yun'er's words meant. Who is Han Xiling? The faces of Yanling Xian and the others had also become wonderful. It was well known that before the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang, Han Xiling was the only woman who had a close relationship with Di Beichan. They were really curious about how Di Beichan would choose between the two. Di Beichan's aura became cloying, handsome face even more chilly. The look that he gave Ji Yun'er was without the slightest feeling, but he did not answer. Observing the changes in Di Beichan's look, doubts appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Han Xiling, this was her first time hearing her name, is it not that? What is the story between Di Beichan and Han Xiling? At the moment, Bailey Hongzhuang felt somewhat insecure, and an unknown emotion spread. Her mood became low. At the moment, a melodious and laughing voice began to sound in mid-air. I seem to hear everyone talking about me? The crowd could not help but look up in the air and see a young woman garbed in a green dress, sitting on a blue lotus. Above the lotus, her hair flowed and the clothes gently fluttered. Her beautiful and water-like face was accompanied with a shallow smile, just like the lotus that she sat on. Her whole person exuded the elegance like that of a lotus. Compared to the disdainful Ji Yun'er, the lotus-like woman looked really warm. At the first glance she gave a sense of comfort. Although her appearance was not comparable to Bailey Hongzhuang, her temperament was enough to make her equally as charming. Miss Han, I did not think you would have come. Yanling Xian quickly greeted and put away his attitude to appear elegant and playful. There was no lack of appreciation in his eyes. Han Xiling was very famous among the younger generation of cultivators. There were numerous men who pursued her, but Han Xiling had never been interested in other men except for Di Beichan. Han Xiling smiled faintly. Di Dage is here. Naturally, I wanted to come too. Saying this, Han Xiling's eyes had sought out Di Beichan. The intimacy in her words was undoubtedly evident. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Han Xiling, who walked slowly towards Di Beichan, and found her temperament to be very good. From the attitude of Yanling Xian and the others, everyone could see that the relationship between Han Xiling and Di Beichan was not simple. Sure enough, there was a story between the two. The look in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes changed gradually. Di Beichan's quietness made her heart even more unsure. Ji Yun'er had said Han Xiling's name under such circumstances. Obviously, Han Xiling had a high status in Di Beichan's eyes. Moreover, so many people were aware of the relationship between Han Xiling and Di Beichan, it was obvious this was a well-known thing. At the thought of this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but step back and widen the distance between her and Di Beichan. Regardless of how others provoked, she would not care about it a half-bit. She only cared about Di Beichan's attitude. If Di Beichan himself no longer said anything, what could she say? Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, Di Beichan turned his head to look at her. His eyes were filled with firmness, and he once again came close to Bailey Hongzhuang. Di Beichan's actions did not escape everyone's attention, and the eyes of Ji Yun'er and the others were filled with horror. In the face of Han Xiling, Di Beichan still stood so close beside Bailey Hongzhuang. It could be seen that in Di Beichan's heart, the status of Bailey Hongzhuang was even stronger than that of Han Xiling. As soon as they thought of this, everyone had a feeling of incredibility. What sacred place did Bailey Hongzhuang hold? How could she make Di Beichan care even lesser for Han Xiling? Han Xiling did not see these things, and her face still had an elegant smile as she slowly walked to Di Beichan's side. Dage, I guessed you would be here after listening to the news about Luoyun Mountains. You really are here. Zhan Xiling smiled lightly. Faster. The sound of footsteps entered everyone's ears, and a large number of cultivators were approaching the center. Our people are coming. Di Beichun smiled lightly. There must be a lot of people, but they were the first to come, others were still in the rear. Master. Mississippi. Sure enough, a respectful voice came from the rear. These were the people of various families. Ji Yuner looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a provocative look. This was the power of her family. You must first find a place to rest. Yes. Not only Ji family, the other 3 families had also settled in the sidelines. All of them were curious about the ancient monument. I recently happened to be near this place. So after hearing the news, I rushed here. The people of the sect will arrive later. Han Xiling smiled and looked at Di Beichun. From beginning to end, her eyes did not fall on Bailey Hongzhuang. It was like she was not even there. Di Beichun nodded slightly. You have traveled long, you should rest first. Han Xiling's lips rose slightly. Dage, when are you coming back to the sect? You are not there, but many people are thinking about you. I will not go back. Di Beichun replied. Han Xiling's face gently wrinkled. Since you are not at the sect, I'm alone. You must come back early. Han Xiling's words showed their intimacy. Everyone listened to Han Xiling, and the appearance of Han Xiling and Di Beichun became ambiguous in their sight. Who is this Han Xiling? How is she so close to Di Beichun? Xia Zhiqing had seen with her own eyes how Di Beichun simply did not care for other women besides Hongzhuang. However, this woman who had suddenly appeared was also an exception. After listening to them, Han Xiling should be in the same sect as Di Beichun. Bai Junyu said slowly. Suddenly there were so many cultivators, this situation had undoubtedly taken a curve for the bad. Not to mention all of them were more powerful, they also had strong families backing them. Bye-bye, why do I think that this woman is even more annoying than Ji Yuner? Xiao Hei's eyes flashed with displeasure. Ji Yuner was undoubtedly very annoying, ugly and overly talkative. From the beginning to the end, Han Xiling had never said any harsh words, but it looked more uncomfortable. This woman is simply ignoring Master. Xiao Bai's face was ugly. This woman was not as good as she seemed. She was acting as if their master didn't exist. Listening to Xiao Bai's words, Xiao Hei understood his dislike. Yes, that's it. They were wondering why Han Xiling made them so uncomfortable. So, the original problem was this. Baisher's eyes were slightly angry. The number of pesky guys he met today was really a lot. He hated Jiuner. This Han Xiling was even more annoying. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. From the first look at Han Xiling, she knew that this woman was not the embodiment of an elegant lotus, but the arrogance in her bones made her look down on most people. It was because of this arrogance that she had been ignored, but naturally, she too was indifferent. This kind of temperament was not uncommon in arrogant women. Obviously, there was still a certain gap between the identity of Ji Yuner and Han Xiling. It was precisely because of this that they had been so uncomfortable of Ji Yuner and Han Xiling. They were contemptuous. Since this was a reconciliation between Han Xiling and Di Beichun, it was meaningless for her to stand next to them. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang stepped away slightly. However, as soon as Bailey Hongzhuang took a step, Di Beichun suddenly pulled her and prevented her from leaving. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned, looking at Di Beichun with slight puzzlement, but Di Beichun was smiling at her. I came here this time to see people I miss, Di Beichun slowly said. After Han Xiling, who had originally been indifferent to Bailey Hongzhuang, heard Di Beichun's words, a touch of color could not help but surface on her calm face. Who did you want to see? Di Beichun nodded slightly and pulled Bailey Hongzhuang to his side. He smiled slightly. This is my wifey, Bailey Hongzhuang. Han Xiling's eyes flashed with a hint of haze. She had not expected that in such circumstances, Di Beichun would even emphasize the identity of Bailey Hongzhuang. However, Han Xiling's face remained calm, only looking faintly at Bailey Hongzhuang. Wifey, this is my shimmy, Han Xiling. Di Beichun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang by his side tenderly. The distance between him and his lady was hard to bridge. He wouldn't like it if things returned to the way they were originally. Ji Yuner's eyes widened. What? Even in front of Han Shiling's face, Di Beichan is still saying that. In my opinion, Di Beichan really likes Bailey Hongzhuang. Lin Yiro laughed gently. Han Shiling is naturally flawless, but it not necessarily so in the eyes of lovers. Besides, don't you think both Bailey Hongzhuang's looks and temperament are better than Han Shiling's? After hearing these words, the faces of the other three, even Ji Yuners, changed. They had to admit that it was a fact. If Bailey Hongzhuang had not said she was a commoner, who would dare to belittle her on seeing her appearance and temperament? This Bailey Hongzhuang can't be an ordinary person. Huang Fuhui said indifferently, his mouth just the slightest bit curved in laughter. The appearance is beautiful and her temperament is natural. Ordinary people can't have such a temperament. Lin Yiro nodded slightly. The thoughts of Huang Fuhui were the same as hers. Any ordinary person wouldn't have the courage to confront them at all, much less make Ji Yuner suffer. With what Di Beichan had achieved today, his vision will naturally not be bad. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart, which had been turbulent earlier, settled down at hearing Di Beichan's words. She did not know what exactly happened between Di Beichan and Han Shiling, but since Di Beichan dared to introduce her in this way, it proved that the two of them were still not that intimate. Hello. Han Shiling took the lead, and although her tone was warm, her eyes shone with complex emotions. Hello. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent, but she did not ignore the look of cold sword-like emotion in Han Shiling's eyes. This Han Shiling was definitely not a good person. Therefore, this elegant lotus-like temperament was probably hot and spicy in reality. However, she had never been afraid of threats. The two women stood face to face, and although they spoke politely, anyone could feel the frozen atmosphere between them. Xia Zhiqing and the others breathed a sigh of relief. Regardless of who this Han Shiling was, at least Di Beichan had made his attitude very clear. As a result, they could also rest assured. The monument is about to come up. Let's take a rest. Di Beichan whispered faintly, and after smiling at Han Shiling, he took Bailey Hongzhuang's hand in his and walked back to the team. Han Shiling's eyes were fixed onto the entwined hands of Di Beichan and Bailey Hongzhuang. She had known Dage for so many years. Dage had never been this close to other women and had never left her alone. Now with the appearance of this woman, all this has changed. Yan Lingxian and the others looked at each other silently. Today's show was wonderful. The ugly face of Ji Yuner was very satisfying to look at that moment. Since even Han Shiling had tasted a sour lemon, what more she? Bailey Hongzhuang sat on the ground while Di Beichan sat beside her. She didn't express any facial expression and remained silent. Di Beichan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's expression. He understood and feared that the incident just now made Bailey Hongzhuang feel rather unpleasant, so he had to explain to her. Lady, don't misunderstand me. Bailey Hongzhuang's brows rose. Misunderstanding? So many people were watching, but Di Beichan actually said it was a misunderstanding. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was displeased, Di Beichan hurried up, but the next second, Di Beichan's eyes were suddenly filled with a deep smile. Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face and eyebrows wrinkled slightly. At such a time, Di Beichan was actually laughing at her? Why are you laughing while looking at me? Bailey Hongzhuang said coldly. Di Beichan grinned as he chuckled. Wifey, are you jealous? His voice fell and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at him blankly. Was she jealous? Haha, jealous. Xiaohei snickered. Master looked like this while jealous? Of course, this kind of expression they had never seen before. I am not. You. Upon hearing this, Di Beichan did not tease Bailey Hongzhuang any longer. Instead, he only held her hand and slowly told her his story. I have lived in a martial arts sect since I was a child. Master had brought me with him. Han Shiling is the granddaughter of one of the great elders and has grown up with me since childhood. So, our relationship is very good. You shouldn't think about this too much. Han Shiling is just a shimmy. I only think of her as a sister. As for love between men and women, I only have you in my heart. Di Beichan gazed at Bailey Hongzhuang, eyes filled with seriousness and affection. He had never had true feelings for a woman until after he had seen Bailey Hongzhuang. This was the first time he had had such a feeling. Until now, he had been considered a cripple. If not for him suddenly becoming a cripple, Why would he have come from his sect to the Fongbo country? For 3 years of forbearance in his life, he was once hateful and full of grief, but now he felt that this was all for the best. The 3 years of being a cripple had made him see the true features of many people around him, making his original arrogance wane and become more mature and tough. The most important thing is that while he was gone, Bailey Hongzhuang appeared by his side. Perhaps this had all been predestined by the heavens. He could stand again because of Hongzhuang, and she also became his wife by chance. He thanked God for all this and wanted to protect his Bailey Hongzhuang. Listening to Di Bei-chan, Bailey Hongzhuang's mood gradually became better. She believed in Di Bei-chan's words. If Di Bei-chan had liked Han Xiling in his heart, he would never have pursued her. Do you believe me, lady? Di Bei-chan asked seriously as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang licked her lips, and her eyes became more alluring. Although she had never spoken, Di Bei-chan already understood everything. Lady, do you want to know my story? He had never said it before, not because he did not want to say, but because he thought Bailey Hongzhuang would not be willing to listen. Now that the relationship between them had gone a step further, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang should know a little more about him. This would help to avoid a lot of misunderstandings. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. What kind of life did you have in the past? Di Bei-chan slowly turned to look in front, appearing a bit distant and various emotions wafting off him. From Di Bei-chan's narrative, Bailey Hongzhuang understood his identity. Originally, Di Bei-chan had been a disciple of Tiangangzong, and his master was none other than the sovereign of Tiangangzong. His master had no children in his life, so he always treated Di Bei-chan as his son, and only taught him as a disciple in his entire life. Di Bei-chan's talent was also very outstanding. Since he first started cultivating, his master had never been disappointed. In the dark, everyone regarded Di Bei-chan as the successor of Tiangangzong. In the sect, there were 4 elders in addition to the sovereign. Each elder had their own prided disciple. Since Tiangangzong had been established, there had been a custom. The position of young suzerain would be selected from among the disciple of the patriarch and the 4 elders' disciples. The one who was the strongest would be the young suzerain. This approach was to avoid more competition and making the successor or motivated. It was only through competition that the strongest person could be born. This was also a good way for a sect to remain strong. A few years ago, his master had left Tiangangzong to achieve a breakthrough. This was quite normal. Not only his master but also elders of other sects and the patriarchs of some families would go out to seek an opportunity for a breakthrough. It was not a simple matter and could take a lot of time. After his master left for a period of time, the problem in Di Bei-chan's legs appeared, and other competitors wanted to take this opportunity to make quick work of him. Originally, he had been able to resist, until he could not stand up anymore. There were then fewer and fewer supporters in the sect. In these 3 years of forbearance, he had always disguised himself as a waste. In fact, he had ever given up. It was precisely because of this that his status as a prince had been sealed by Xinyuan Yutian. As for being his illegitimate child, that was entirely nonsense. In his 3 years of durance, Xinyuan Huan and the others had harassed him all the time, but he had always forborne, not for others, but because someone had been watching his every move. Once he showed his abilities, there would be people who would seek him out. Among the sect, no one dared to deal with him so openly, but after he came to the Fongbo country, they had more chances to do so. Since he was able to stand again, he returned to the sect. As long as he was not a useless cripple, he was still the successor. In the past, he was recognized as the young suzerain of Tiangangzong. Although there were many things that happened afterward, as long as he was able to stand again, he would not have any difficulty returning to his previous position. Even till date, his master had not returned, but Di Bei-chan still returned to his original position. However, this time when he was back at Tiangangzong, his feelings were completely different from the past. He had lived in Tiangangzong since childhood and had a lot of friends. However, since he became a crippled person with no future, his friends not only did not help him, on the contrary, many of them stomped on him. Therefore, he now felt that he had benefited greatly from this 3 years of change. If not for this opportunity presenting itself and revealing the true nature of those around him, He would not have known there were so many conmen around. As for Ji Yuner, he had never said anything to her. Even though he was not that close to Ji Yuner, they had been friends for many years. He had maintained a polite conduct, but Ji Yuner had already expressed her love. 3 years ago, when he was crippled, Ji Yuner never said another word to him. Why should he bother with such a woman? After listening to Di Bei-chan, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a trace of distress. Although Di Bei-chan said it so simply, she understood exactly what kind of state he was in these past 3 years. There was not much difference with being ostracized. From a genius everyone looked up to, he had become the waste everyone trampled on. If his mental fortitude was not strong enough, he would really have been finished. Then Han Xiling? Wisdom flashed through Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes. Didn't she give up on you in these 3 years? Di Bei-chan looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang, not concealing anything. Yes, Han Xiling had been secretly helping me these past 3 years. If not, my life would have been worse. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She understood the attitude Di Bei-chan had towards Han Xiling was with reason. Under such circumstances, Han Xiling had never given up on him. This kind of friendship was hard to find, and anyone with blood and flesh would not turn a blind eye to it. After thinking about it, Di Bei-chan already knew of Han Xiling's feelings for him. He just did not want to hurt her. I understand, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Believe me, I will deal with this matter. Di Bei-chan's eyes flashed with earnesty. He grew up with Han Xiling. He was not willing to destroy the sentiment between them, but he was even more unwilling to hurt Bailey Hongzhuang. Because Bailey Hongzhuang was his most important person. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. I believe in you. She didn't care about others. What she cared about was what Di Bei-chan felt in his heart. As for others, they were not important. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Bei-chan felt relieved. What he was most worried about was Bailey Hongzhuang's response to this matter. Fortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang was not displeased. He really should be looking for a time to solve this problem. He had always been a direct person. He was never one to drag his feet, and he was not willing to delay Han Xiling. Oh Dage, I have something to say to you. After Han Xiling saw Di Bei-chan with Bailey Hongzhuang, talking with him so intimately, a trace of chill appeared on her elegant face. She didn't know who this woman was, but as long as she dared to steal her big brother, she would not forgive her. Di Bei-chan looked at Han Xiling, who had appeared suddenly before him. He pondered for a moment and nodded. Okay. Elegantly getting up, Di Bei-chan said to Bailey Hongzhuang, Wifey, I'll be back in a moment. You go. Bailey Hongzhuang gave a light smile. Han Xiling saw the complex and unfathomable look of Bailey Hongzhuang, and then led Di Bei-chan some distance away. Upon seeing this, Xia Zhiqing went to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. There was a bit of anxiety on her face. Hongzhuang, can you rest assured nothing will happen between the two? Nothing will happen. With a smile she replied, looking calm and unruffled. This Han Xiling likes Di Bei-chan. She is your great rival. Ah, how can you be so calm? Di Bei-chan is your husband. You must not allow others to snatch. Although Han 11 Ling camouflages very successfully, she cannot escape my eyes. She is definitely a white lotus. Xia Zhiqing said determinedly. She had been very confident of her own eyes. Taking advantage of Xia Zhiqing's uneven expression, the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's face gradually deepened, and there was a hint of a warmth in her heart. Zhiqing, thank you. I'm your good friend. Naturally I'm on your side, said Xia Zhiqing. But can you really be so clam? I think this Han Xiling is an enemy. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and shook her head. If he were to be snatched so easily, what qualification does he have to be my Bailey Hongzhuang's man? She had always been indiscriminate. If Di Bei-chan was really taken away, then she would only thank Han Xiling. The man that she, Bailey Hongzhuang, was with, must only have her in his eyes. This is what she wants. Han Xiling was proud, but Bailey Hongzhuang's arrogance was not any less than hers. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang, Xia Zhiqing could not help but give her a thumbs up. You're right about that. I support you. She really didn't think that Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was so strong, but thinking about it, what she said was true. With how amazing Bailey Hongzhuang was, she would not be able to find a man. But I still believe Di Bei-chan is sincere to you. Xia Zhiqing grinned. He said that you were his lady right in Han Shiling's face. It is clear that he is innocent. In my opinion, Di Beichan may have already broken her heart now. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, but she looked in the distance. This Han Shiling was not a good person. In the woods, Han Shiling and Di Beichan stood opposite each other. Dage, you only re-established your position in the sect, and then left immediately. This is very unfavorable to your status. Han Shiling slowly uttered her thoughts, and there was no lack of concern in her words. It's fine, as long as I am no longer a crippled person who can't even stand up. They can't do anything to me again. Di Beichan looked carefree. In 3 years he had enough thoughts to clear up many things. Things that were important to him then were no longer important. But, without hearing Han Shiling speak, Di Beichan had already interrupted her. I don't have more to say. I have already decided. So, have you really decided to be with that girl? She is nothing more than a commoner. There is an inseparable gap between you and her, the daughter of an ordinary general. There is no match at all. At the moment, Han Shiling no longer concealed her inner thoughts. She could not believe that Di Beichan would like such an ordinary girl. What matches, what does not matches? Di Beichan asked. In my heart, she is the best. No one could understand the status of Bailey Hongzhuang in his mind. For more than 10 years, he had never felt his heart beat for any other woman, but he had been impressed the very first moment he saw Bailey Hongzhuang. Such a woman with her tenacity, hard work and decisiveness had clearly left an impression on him. He had never had any sentiments for her before, but then she was even willing to cure him. So far, he felt that the only thing Xianyuan Yuqian did correctly is for him and Bailey Hongzhuang to marry. In fact, even if Xianyuan Yuqian had not given them a marriage, he would still try his best to make Bailey Hongzhuang his wife, because he had her in his heart. Once Bailey Hongzhuang was there in his heart, no one could replace her position. She was the best in his heart. Seeing Di Beichan so determined, Han Elevenling's face became even uglier. When the sovereign returns, even he will not agree with you. Di Beichan shook his head. I believe that master will support my decisions. Just when Di Beichan was ready to leave, Han Shiling suddenly spoke up. Well, I do. Di Beichan's stature stiffened as he slowly turned around. Dage, you know my feelings for you. Can't I compare to Bailey Hongzhuang in your heart? Han Shiling asked. Since she was a child, she had always loved Di Beichan as a family. For many years, although Di Beichan had never said anything to her, Di Beichan had also never been with any other women. Therefore, she believed that as long as she was beside Di Beichan would love her. Now that Di Beichan had only left for 3 years, all this had changed. Is it that her companionship of more than 10 years with Di Beichan was not as good as Bailey Hongzhuang? Shiling, I have always thought of you as my sister. You know it. Di Beichan's words were low and serious. The person I love is Bailey Hongzhuang. This is a completely different feeling. As soon as those words came out, Han Shiling's face became pale and she felt injured. She could hardly believe that Di Beichan would say such words to her in such a decisive manner. I don't want to delay you. Shiling, you will always be my sister. As for your feelings, I can't reciprocate them. Di Beichan said earnestly. He did not want to be vague about this matter, otherwise, he would be unfair to Bailey Hongzhuang and unfair to Han Shiling. He only wanted to be with Bailey Hongzhuang and protest her. He did not want to see her unhappy at all. Dage, I have liked you for so many years, but now you reject me so simply. Is it that you no longer care for me? Han Shiling looked wounded. Her 2 eyes were faintly covered with the crystalline sheen of tears. It is not that I don't care for you. I will not return to the sect during this time. It will be good for you. Di Beichan had no changes in his attitude despite Han Shiling's tears. He understood that being afraid to hurt her would be being cruel to himself. Only an unyielding attitude would completely break down Han Shiling's thoughts. After Han Shiling recovered, they may be able to go back to being brother and sister. As his voice fell, Di Beichan no longer said anything, but he turned and walked away. For Han Shiling he apologized, but he could not do more. Any words of comfort would be like knives instead. Han Shiling looked at Di Beichen's departing back, and her heart felt like it would burst with pain. However, both her eyes could not help but be filled with resentment. For so many years, she had always been the arrogant woman in the eyes of all people. How many young masters liked her? She dismissed them. The only one she liked was Di Beichan. Now, a woman who had suddenly appeared had destroyed her years of feelings. How could she give up? She would not. She will never lose. How could she be defeated by a woman who was nothing? Han Shiling's eyes gradually strengthened. She believed her big brother had only been briefly blinded by Bailey Hongzhuang. Soon he would wake up. And then, she and Di Beichan would naturally be a couple. When everyone saw Di Beichan come back first, their eyes hanged a bit. Wise men had already guessed the conversation between Han Shiling and Di Beichan. I didn't think that Han Shiling, who has always been so arrogant, would be defeated by an ordinary girl. I'm really happy. Lin Yiro smiled slightly. She had always been slighted and dismissed by Han Shiling. Now she was delighted to see this scene. Lin Yiro, you are gloating like this, it seems it's not so good? Yin Lingxian frowned. Don't you like Han Shiling? Lin Yiro smiled. Now you must be the happiest person in this situation. Hearing this, Yin Lingxian's face changed a bit. In fact, this situation really did make him happy. Han Shiling has a temper. It is not in line with her style to give up. Huang Fuhui's eyes shined with wisdom. Bailey Hongzhuang will be in trouble. Ji Yuner's eyes were filled with viciousness as she seethed. This woman, Bailey Hongzhuang, is really damned. Even if Han Shiling does nothing, I will not let her go. As the young miss of Ji family and one of their prided children, when had she ever eaten a loss? In any case, she would not bear this. Lin Yiro looked at Ji Yuner with a faint smile. Di Beichan has claimed Bailey Hongzhuang as her wife. If you want to offend Di Beichan because of Bailey Hongzhuang, think carefully. Saying this, Lin Yiro's eyes could not help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Although she did not really know Bailey Hongzhuang, she really admired her. As an ordinary girl, she had stood against both Han Shiling and Ji Yuner. This courage was not one possessed by ordinary people. It was really interesting. If she had the opportunity, knowing her better was also a good choice. Only after Han Shiling returned, did everyone close their mouths and keep silent. Di Beichan sat down beside Bailey Hongzhuang, his handsome bright face full of an evil smile. Aren't you curious what we talked about? Bailey Hongzhuang's brows and beautiful face was relaxed. Laughing enchantingly, she asked instead, do you want to tell me? Not even asking her, Xiao He and Xiao Bai could not help but join in on the fun. The two beasts were curious cats. Di Beichan smiled brilliantly. His wifey was very different from ordinary women. He caught Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, his voice gentle. I have made it clear to Shiling, and perhaps Shiling will take some time. Wifey just needs to believe in me. Bailey Hongzhuang gazed at Di Beichan. This guy's straightforwardness made her very satisfied. What she hated the most were men that are ambiguous and don't speak up in such matters. Di Beichan could be so resolute, she was really happy. As for Han Shiling's response, Xiao He and Xiao Bai also told her that the contradiction between her and Han Shiling had only just begun. As a man, Di Beichan was not aware of how fierce fight between women is, especially when there are no smokes in the war. However, she was not afraid. After this incident, everyone turned their heads to rest and adjusted their breath. The ancient monument would be completely revealed tomorrow. They must adjust their strength to it best in order to face the challenges in the monument in their prime condition. There are many treasures in ancient monuments, but there are also many dangers. One small mistake, and their lives would inadvertently be lost. Not only that, but so many cultivators around was already a huge threat. In the event of someone robbing a treasure, it would be a bloody struggle. There was also considerable risk that many things had changed in the past 1,000 years, and her understanding of ancient monuments was not as good as before. As night fell, with so many cultivators gathered there, it was quiet and only the beasts that came out of the monument stunned the people into an uproar. Baisher, do you know what guardian beast that is? Xiao He asked. This guy is too noisy. Baisher nodded. This should be the Qingtianmo alligator. With its inherited memory, it had a deeper understanding of demonic beasts. From the voice, He could determine the identity of the Qingtianmo alligator. Hearing the name of the Qingtianmo alligator, Bailey Hongzhuang's face changed a bit. The Qingtianmo alligator is comparable to a human cultivator at the Huang-Yellow border. Adding in the fact that this Qingtianmo alligator has guarded the ancient monument for so many years, its strength must be stronger than ordinary Qingtianmo alligator. I didn't expect this to happen. A beast like this alligator is a hassle. Xiao Hei's face was dignified and he had no choice but to mention it. Baisher, can you stop the Qingtianmo alligator? Xiao Hei asked. No matter how you say it, Baisher was the beast king. Baisher looked a bit depressed. My strength is still weak. I will be able to shock the Qingtianmo alligator for some time with my aura, but later he will be able to resist. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's face became serious. It had not been long since Baisher had been born. With just a few months, his strength was naturally not too strong, but to think that its aura could shake the Qingtianmo alligator was beyond her expectations. Chapter 487. Considering the risks, don't worry. There are so many people here, we can't do that. 1. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips were slightly raised. There are so many cannon fodders around. If not used, wouldn't it be a waste? The members of the 4 cultivation families must be more than desperate to enter the ancient monument. Once the Qingtianmo alligator came out, they would certainly take the lead. After all, they absolutely would not put them in their eyes as merely lucky students who happened to pass through the miasma forest. Although the Tsonglan College was widely known, and they were special enrollment students of the college, but at most they were only considered to have potential, and in long term would not be that useful. Master is right. Let these guys use their strength and clear up our way. Otherwise, aren't we being at a disadvantage? Xiao Hei's eyes were twinkling. They had to make use of these people. That was an extremely important point. It's for the tall people to worry when the sky falls. We just need to enjoy our achievements. Xiao Bai said proudly. They must retain their strength to the end. Baisher stared at the crowd of black-bellied people in front of him, and had to admit that their idea was really good. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo gathered Bailey Hongzhuang and other people together. The 2 teachers' face was full of dignified expression. If it is as we expected, the monument will open tomorrow. This is an opportunity with risk. You may have an opportunity for growth or you could suffer a loss. No one can judge the outcome. Lu Huaiyan's voice was slightly heavy. You must be very careful. Even with my strength, there is no guarantee that I would not suffer. The only hope is that the trials will not be too cruel. Listening to these words, the other people's face also became dark and worried. This was the first time they were seeing an ancient monument, and everything they knew was from what they had heard about it. Even from news they had heard before, they knew that there would be many cultivators gathered before an ancient monument appeared. 2. The only good news this time was that because of the toxic miasma, they would not have as many competitors. In addition to the trials and traps laid out in the monument, other forces must also not be ignored. It is inevitable that you will have to fight or treasures. Fu Hongbo sighed, trying to fight for the treasures in the monument with their current strength. It was too difficult. The 4 families and the practitioners of Tiangang Zone were not simple, especially since the conflict between Ji Yuner and Bailey Hongzhuang was so fierce. Once the 2 people met inside the monument, Bailey Hongzhuang's situation would be bad. Being confronted in this way was fate, and no one would be willing to give up. Even if hope was very uncertain, very few people have such an unparalleled will. 3. You have to think carefully. If you don't have the confidence, don't go into the monument. Fu Hongbo's eyes were full of seriousness. I have already informed the college about this, and you will certainly be able to go back safely. You must know that you are talented young people. As long as you practice hard, you will be able to succeed in the future. Fu Hongbo and Lu Huaiyan's feeling were very complicated at the moment. On one hand, it would be a pity if someone gave up this opportunity. On the other hand, as teachers, they were also reluctant to see their students suffer injuries. As for the final decision, that could only be made by the students themselves. After the 2 teachers said this, everyone became silent. The risks involved were indeed worthy of their careful consideration. 1. BHZ is saying that Baisher can't use her powers because other people are present. 2. It should be from news about previous appearances of ancient monuments they knew. instead of the current line, however. That is what I think it should be and not what the Raws say. 3. These two lines are in reference to Be. Although it is not stated explicitly, they mean to say that even if there was a slim chance of victory with Bhc's character, she would still fight. Chapter 488. Lu Qinyu's decision. Lu Qinyu was the most hesitant. A long time ago, her master had told her that her talent in cultivation was not as good as that in alchemy. It was not that her cultivation talent was bad, but that she lacked the courage of cultivators. Although she had never stopped cultivating because of this, she still devoted the most energy to practice alchemy. She had originally told master to not be too concerned about her. Since the past 2 times Hu Cheng appeared, she had understood more what her master meant. Her strength was higher than Bailey Hongzhuang's, but she still needed her help to save herself. This alone had already proved the problem. For the ancient monument, she was naturally full of interest, but when she thought of the dangers inside, she lost her confidence. Under such circumstances, would she still want to go? After Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu pondered for a moment, their stance on this became more firm. This kind of opportunity was rare. Once missed, it wasn't necessary that they will have it again in this lifetime. If they gave up now because they were not strong enough, they would surely regret it in the future. Cui Haoyan Zhan Yunfeng, Bai Junyu and Xia Zhiqing also made their decision after struggling for a moment. They must absolutely not regret their choices. Bailey Hongzhuang had never changed her stance from beginning to end. Giving up on something just because it was dangerous, that was not her style. Di Beichan was also the same. When he sees an opportunity, he was happy to pounce on it. How could he give up just because of some danger? After everyone made their decision, Lu Qinyu suddenly said, "I have decided to go back to the college." Hearing Lu Qinyu's words, everyone stopped for a moment, but soon they understood her decision. An alchemist was an extremely rare talent. Once she became an alchemist, she was doomed to become rich and wealthy. What's more, Lu Qinyu's talent in alchemy was outstanding, and she was recognized as a genius alchemist. She simply does not need to take this risk. Lu Huaiyan nodded slightly. Well, I've already informed the college. They will release a signal flare when they arrive outside the miasma forest. When you see the signal flare, then go, that will be safer. There were still a large number of cultivators outside the miasma forest. After the arrival of the 4 families, the outsiders would be even more eager to enter. If Lu Qinyu went out hastily, she would surely be apprehended by everyone. Only by someone from the college waiting outside will be able to guarantee her safety. Hearing this, Lu Qinyu nodded her head and said, "I understand. You're safe right now, stay here." Fu Hongbo felt a bit relieved. Lu Huaiyan's eyes fell on the crowd. "Since you have already decided to go in, you must be careful tomorrow. We cannot predict what kind of traps will be in there. Everyone can only react spontaneously and help themselves." "We understand," everyone responded. Inside the monument, even if their teachers were present, they cannot guarantee their safety. The only one they could rely on was themselves. As cultivators, they are always exposed to countless risks. From the day they walked down this road, they had been ready. The people once again started cultivating, but the mood was significantly heavier. "Gongdage, you must be careful tomorrow. I won't accompany you this time." Chapter 489. Di Beichen's fear. There was a slight hesitation and fear on that gentle and charming face, as Lu Qinyu gazed at Gong Shaoqing. Gong Shaoqing nodded. "You are right, there is a lot of risks here. No one knows what the final result will be. Gongdage, with our strength it is too risky." Lu Qinyu's beautiful face was slightly wrinkled. The Ji family has many strong cultivators. Regardless of the risk of the monument, it will be the added risk of meeting the Ji family. If they see that you have got a treasure, they will surely forcibly rob you. It's too dangerous. It's better. Without waiting for Lu Qinyu to finish her sentence, Gong Shaoqing had already interrupted her. "You don't have to say more, such a good chance, I will not give up." Lu Qinyu would like to continue talking about this, but after seeing Gong Shaoqing's firmness, the words she had not yet said were swallowed back. "Then, Gongdage, I'll be waiting for you at the college," Lu Qinyu said gently, voice full of tenderness and love. She had been stubbornly studying at the Conglan College instead of studying directly at the Alchemist's Guild like Wei Mei Dai. And a large part of the reason was Gong Shaoqing. Only at the Tsonglong College could she always be with Gong Shaoqing. She was afraid that she would never see Gong Shaoqing after she returned to the college. She was completely unable to afford it. I will go back first, Gong Shaoqing said slowly. Lady, the ancient monument will open tomorrow. Are you afraid? Di Beichen asked with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head to see Di Beichen's bright smile like the stars over the horizon, shining and dazzling her. Her petal-like red lips lifted slightly as Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I don't really feel afraid. Instead, I have only excitement in my heart. Fear was always a useless emotion. Since she had already decided to do it, fear has no meaning. Instead of wasting time on fear, it was better to think calmly about what to do next. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent look, Di Beichen's eyes were full of appreciation as he smiled warmly. My wifey is very different from ordinary women. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her elegant brows. You aren't. So to say we are a match made in heaven? Di Beichen blinked deliberately as he questioned. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen to see his smile. This guy was really shameless. I think that if you are able to hide your power, you will be able to win more things tomorrow. Tomorrow you need to be careful, we are going in together, you know? Di Beichen stared at Bailey Hongzhuang as he put away his previously joking manner, his eyes full of seriousness. Seeing the undisguised fear and tension in Di Beichen's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart thumped as she nodded. Good. Di Beichen smiled. Although his wife was not afraid or fearful, he was afraid that she would get injured. Right now, for him, what kind of treasure was in that monument was secondary, and the safety of Bailey Hongzhuang was the most important. Not far away, Han Xiling stared at this scene, a hint of abnormal emotion flashing in her eyes. Unknowingly, Ji Yuner had come to stand beside Han Xiling. Her face had a slight smile as she asked tentatively, Han Xiling, do you like Bailey Hongzhuang? Chapter 490 Eating Loss. Ji Yuner. Han Xiling looked coldly at Ji Yuner beside her. A hint of cold indifference appeared in her eyes. If I think she is pleasing to the eye or not, how is that related to you? Feeling Han Xiling's indifference, Ji Yuner also did not care as she sat down beside her. I'm just asking you. This Bailey Hongzhuang is not strong enough to be the member of a cultivation family, and is an ordinary commoner. Di Beichen even gave you up for such a woman. I really don't know what he is thinking. What do you think? Ji Yuner grinned. In fact, this was her own idea. Listening to Ji Yuner's words, Han Xiling was still quiet, as if what she had just said had nothing to do with her. Do you really want to let Bailey Hongzhuang be with Di Beichen? When Ji Yuner got no response, she asked this. Han Xiling's mouth curved in a ridiculing smile as she coldly said, I don't need you to be worried about me. I'm sorry, I don't have the habit of yielding and being used by other people. Ji Yuner's face changed slightly. Wasn't it that all women would lose their senses if they faced such things? Why was it that Han Xiling was so calm after all this? Han Xiling, you misunderstood me. I don't have such an idea. The smile on Ji Yuner's lips widened a bit. Han Xiling's identity is not low. If she offended her, there would be no benefits. Just watching Bailey Hongzhuang makes me very upset. If you are interested, we can properly deal with her in the monument. Han Xiling chuckled. You see, her in getting a bad mood is your business. I do not have interest in it. If you have nothing else to say, I want to cultivate. Seeing Han Xiling's attitude so cold and determined, Ji Yuner's face was a bit ugly. She did not understand why Han Xiling's reaction was completely different from her imagination. Is it that Han Xiling does not like Di Beichen? Impossible. The idea was dispelled by Ji Yuner as soon as it emerged. By her intuition as a woman, Han Xiling's feelings for Di Beichen were not ordinary. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Han Xiling with her arrogance to have been behind him so many years. Since she couldn't understand why Han Xiling's attitude was like this, Ji Yuner could only return back to her place angrily, and she did not conceal the anger on her face. Han Xiling was not an easy person to bully, but now she had been looked down on by both Bailey Hongzhuang and Han Xiling. This made her really mad. Lin Yirou, Yanling Xian, and Huang Fuhui looked at Ji Yuner's frustrated look, and their eyes were filled with gloating laughter. Ji Yuner's temper was not good, so there were not many people who could really be friends with her. They and Ji Yuner just acted cordially towards each other as children of various powers. They weren't even true friends. Ji Yuner's expression is really interesting, Yin Ling Xian said with a chuckle. On a normal day, she is so arrogant that I fear my arrogance is not worth mentioning. She thought that Han 11 Ling would be like her. However, Han Shi Ling is not like average people. Huang Fu Hui said as he laughed. Lin Yirou smiled at Huang Fu Hui, her eyes full of wisdom. Ji Yuner sees things as too simple. In my opinion, even if Han Shi Ling hates Bailey Hongzhuang, she will never admit it with that arrogant temper of hers. Not to mention, if Han Shi Ling wanted to deal with someone, she would need someone's help. In Yin Ling Xian's eyes, a touch of emotion appeared, and after careful consideration, he felt that Lin Yirou was extremely reasonable and could not help but admire her. Lin Yirou, I did not think you see through things so clearly. Lin Yirou's soft lips slightly curved, not because of Yin Ling Xian's words, but because she did not feel the slightest sense of accomplishment. I don't look through things clearly. I am only a bit more perceptive than others, and am clear about those around me. Yin Ling Xian looked at Lin Yirou softly. At this moment he discovered that Lin Yirou was also a smart young woman. In the past, Lin Yirou always had a quiet temperament, not talking often, plus with Ji Yuner who was always active and attracted everyone's attention, he did not pay close attention to Lin Yirou. Until he heard Lin Yirou's remarks and discovered her intelligence. Sure enough, none of the outstanding disciples of the big families would be simple figures. Time flew by, and a night passed, and most of the ancient monument had now been revealed from the ground. The guardian beast's roar was also fiercer. Bailey Hongzhuang took in the sight in front of her eyes. The ancient monument was comparable to an entire imperial palace. The white building in the shadow of the sun, and the whiteness of the atmosphere gave off an unspeakable sacred feeling. From this tall and majestic building, a sense of grandeur emanated, leaving people in awe. Outside the monument, the faint light, like a layer of water, reflected colorfully under the sun's rays. It was beautiful. However, none of the cultivators present there were in a mood to pay attention to this beauty. What they were interested in was if the ban had been lifted. This monument has been buried in the ground for so many years and the ban is still so strong. The strength of this monument's owner is evident. Lu Huaiyan's face was full of admiration. Practitioners who could build ancient monuments were the strong ones who had made a name for themselves. Facing such a strong person, they couldn't help but admire. He was already very lucky to have seen this monument, but if he could become such a strong person in the future, how happy he would be. With the passage of time, the energy of the ban is gradually dissipating. By evening, the ban will completely disappear. Fu Hongbo's eyes were full of wisdom. From yesterday to today, the energy of the ban was dissipating. Inside he felt a little heavy. Once the ban disappears, the guardian beast will come out, and the guardian beast's attacks will be very powerful. You must be more careful. Fu Hongbo nodded, his eyes falling on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. When the ban dissipates, we will retreat. The guardian beast is of a high rank. You are not its opponents. If you are too close, you can accidentally get hurt. I don't know what the guardian beast is, it has actually been alive for so many years. It will surely be powerful. It should be a Qing Tianmo alligator, Di Beichun said slowly. Hearing Di Beichen's words, everyone's faces changed. The Qing Tianmo alligator, it was an extremely fierce demonic beast. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo did not doubt Di Beichen's words. With Di Beichen's background, it was natural his knowledge was vast. Since Di Beichun was so sure, it should be true. Her clear and refined face showed her surprise. Bailey Hongzhuang had not expected Di Beichun to be able to judge which guardian beast it was just from listening to the guardian beast's howls. If Baishur had not told her, even she would not know that the guardian beast inside was a Qing Tianmo alligator. It seems that Di Beichun's knowledge of demonic beasts was really deep. This Qing Tianmo alligator has been locked in the monument for so many years, and it has absorbed a lot of the toxic miasma. I'm afraid its strength can't be compared with a normal demonic beast. Di Beichun's eyes were full of a wisdom. His master had often traveled with him, so he has a lot of knowledge. Many demonic beasts were ordinary, but in certain special circumstances, they would evolve and become different. And these demonic beasts were more powerful and others should always be careful in front of them. This Qingtianmo alligator has been trapped for so many years. The food in the monument must be over already. It will be very hungry. Once it comes out, it will be very manic, and its strength will be very scary. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. She knew quite a lot about ancient monuments. Once the monument was buried, nobody knew when it would be revealed. Therefore, the guardian beasts of many monuments would be starved to death. But if the guardian beast survives, their strength would become very scary, especially the moment the guardian beast was released from the ruins. It would be manic and treat everyone as its food. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's insights, others nodded. I seem that they really should be farther away from this guardian beast. We should retreat to some distance away. Sometimes, these guardian beasts will come out when the ban has not completely lifted. Just in case, we should go back now. Bailey Hongzhuang continued after feeling a wave of fluctuations from the monument. The others were a bit surprised. According to their understanding, the guardian beast should not be able to come out before the ban had completely dissipated. We have to be careful, we should retreat some distance. Xia Zhiqing agreed. The others also didn't have any objections. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang walk towards the back, Ji Yun'er's ridicule-filled voice rang out. You really have no strength. The guardian beast has not even come out yet and you are already afraid and hiding. You are so bold. If you have the ability, come to stand here and don't stay back. Ji Yun'er's eyes were full of pride. A person born a plebeian will stay such. Before a ban has dissipated, it is impossible for a guardian beast to come out. However, just as Ji Yun'er's voice fell, the eyes of Xia Zhiqing and the others went very wide as they looked in front of them with horror. You idiot, take a good look at what's behind you. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. She no longer felt like paying mind to this idiot Ji Yu. And she quickly retreated a few hundred meters away along with Di Beichan. Ji Yun'er listened to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, her mouth arcing up disdainfully. You want to cheat me with this silly trick? Do you think I was born yesterday? Miss, get back fast. At this point, the cultivators beside Ji Yun'er quickly shouted. Ji Yun'er's face changed as she looked behind in surprise. She only saw a giant blue-eyed devil alligator running out of the ancient ruin. Ah, Ji Yun'er screamed. Her entire person scared silly by the sudden appearance of the Qingtianmo alligator. Chapter 493 A Shameless Idiot. Oh! The Qingtianmo alligator opened its bloody mouth and suddenly headed towards Ji Yun'er. When the cultivators of the Ji family saw this, they quickly retreated with Ji Yun'er towards the back. Oh! The Qingtianmo alligator apparently had not expected that the food about to enter its mouth would suddenly fly off, and his heart burst with dissatisfaction. With an angry flick of his tail, he had destroyed the trees next to him. The sudden appearance of the Qingtianmo alligator surpassed everyone's expectations. If not for everyone's eyes were locked onto the ancient monument, it is feared that many cultivators would have already died the moment the Qingtianmo alligator appeared. After Ji Yun'er escaped, she was pale and stood in the distance, breathing heavily, her face full of horror. If it wasn't for the cultivators of her family who had pulled her away, she feared that she would have already become food for the Qingtianmo alligator. How could a Qingtianmo alligator appear so suddenly? Not to mention that a guardian beast cannot come out before the ban is lifted? Yinling Xian was shocked. If he hadn't responded quickly enough, he didn't know what kind of consequences he would be facing. At the moment, Huang Fuhui could no longer keep his aloof appearance. There are few traces of guardian beasts in a monument, so many people do not understand the situation well. Then, everyone's eyes could not help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. All of they had not known that the Qingtianmo alligator would suddenly appear. But Bailey Hongzhuang, who had elegantly retorted, knew and had retreated along with the people of her college. Could there really be such a coincidence in the world? Or was it possible that Bailey Hongzhuang expected that the Qingtianmo alligator would appear earlier than expected, and thus reminded the students of the Zhonglan College to stay away? The hearts of the people were full of a complex feeling. However, after careful consideration, everyone thought that this was impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to say such things out of luck. It was very likely that Bailey Hongzhuang had already expected this. At the thought of this, everyone's faces became even more puzzled. They only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was not an ordinary person, but with this move of Bailey Hongzhuang, they were even more sure that Bailey Hongzhuang was not an ordinary person. Hey, aren't you very powerful? How can your expression be so scared at this moment? Bailey Hongzhuang lifted her chin slightly, the corners of her mouth lifting in an enchanting laugh as she mocked Ji Yuner mercilessly. She had always been a person who gifted upon others what they gave to her. Since Ji Yuner had taken the initiative to find trouble with her, she also didn't mind laughing at Ji Yuner. Ji Yuner's face was very pale. At the moment, after listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, her hatred for her became even more intense. Nonetheless, she was now not even qualified to ridicule Bailey Hongzhuang now. You just had some good luck, so what? Ji Yuner pondered for a moment and could only say this as a retort. Bailey Hongzhuang said lightly, what do you think about how you look right now? You look so pale and scared, not at all gutsy. Xia Zhiqing and the others had a smile on their faces. Ji Yuner's previous words were skillfully countered with this and they snorted in laughter. Instead of her mocking Bailey Hongzhuang, Ji Yuner had been turned into a joke. Han Xiling slyly glimpsed at Ji Yuner, her eyes full of disgust. Idiot. Fortunately, she didn't say anything to this idiot, or even she would have lost face along with this idiot. Chapter 49 Attacking the Qing Tianmo alligator. When the Qing Tianmo alligator appeared, its bloodthirsty eyes were locked onto the people, and its bloody mouth was open to reveal blood and watery drool. In the ancient monument, it had been hungry for a long time. It had not expected to see so much food as soon as it came out. It was worth it. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at the Qing Tianmo alligator in front of them. Seeing the Qing Tianmo alligator's entirely blue body, black lines appeared on her forehead. Its eyes were black and ball-sized, exuding a ruthlessness as it stared at them. Dense scales covered its entire body, making it more menacing. The Qing Tianmo alligator was a kind of hard-to-find demonic beast. Its scales were hard and ordinary weapons would not be able to penetrate it at all. Not only that, the Qing Tianmo alligator was also extremely powerful, and its giant tail was a great weapon. One sweep of the tail would be able to knock down many heavy objects. Once hit by its tail, a cultivator is most likely to vomit and die. At this moment, the Qing Tianmo alligator was grunting and watching the crowd as it fantasized about food, thinking which one it should eat first. I didn't expect that the guardian beast in the monument would turn out to be a Qing Tianmo alligator. It will be difficult to deal with it. Yinling Xian frowned. It seems that the owner of this monument was even more powerful than we imagined. The strength of the Qing Tianmo alligator is already at the Huang yellow border. In my opinion, it will be impossible to defeat the Qing Tianmo alligator with the power of a single family. It won't be as effective as everyone attacking and killing the Qing Tianmo alligator together. How about it? One of Ji family's cultivators said. Hearing those words, the powerful exponents in the crowd nodded. Good. Everyone will join hands to kill this Qing Tianmo alligator. In the face of such a powerful demonic beast, the younger generation was simply not its opponents. Only by relying on them will this trouble be solved. Lu Huaiyan and the Fu Hongbo looked at each other, then nodded together before immediately rushing towards the Qing Tianmo alligator. You stay in place, don't come. Their voice sounded in the ears of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other people. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo had already disappeared from in front of them. Since the 4 cultivation families and the cultivators of Tiangangzong had already contributed, if they continued to stay in place while doing nothing, it would not be right. Since they came here, they will try to find the treasures within the monument. If they did not contrite at this moment, once the Qing Tianmo alligator has died, the 4 cultivation families and the cultivators of Tiangangzong may not even let them enter the monument. At that time they would be helpless. Seeing the actions of the 2 teachers, the eyes of Gog Shaoqing and the others gradually changes. It was not easy for the 2 teachers. The Qing Tianmo alligator snarled as it saw so many cultivators rushing towards it, a flash of excitement flashing in its eyes. It felt very hungry, and these morsels or food had arrived automatically. Xing! The sound of iron and other metal types of long swords slashing onto the Qing Tianmo alligator's body came. However, the fierce attack that fell on its body did not even pierce the scales of the Qing Tianmo alligator. Only a shallow white mark was left on the scales. Damn it! This Qingtianmo alligator's defense is too strong. The face of the master from G family was a bit ugly. Although he had known that the Qingtianmo alligator would not be easy to deal with, he had not thought that the defense of the Qingtianmo alligator would have metamorphosed so abnormally. Chapter 495 Only slightly worse. Qingtianmo alligator O. After the first cultivator tried, the attacks of other masters fell onto the body of Qingtianmo alligator. The same attack still could not break the defense of the Qingtianmo alligator, and the huge tail of the alligator kept sweeping them away. The crowd could only escape constantly while looking for opportunities to attack. Faced with the attacks of the crowd, the Qingtianmo alligator was still very calm. These kinds of forceful attacks fell on him but felt like tickles. We will attack the same place, we have to find a breakthrough and opportunity. Lu Huaiyan's Yuan Li condensed as he shouted. Listening to Lu Huaiyan's words, the exponents of the four families in Tiangangzong only nodded. This was the only way they could proceed now. The only weakness of the Qingtianmo alligator was its abdomen, but attacking there was near impossible because of the alligator's short legs. Together with its constantly biting head and sweeping tail, they had no way to attack the Qingtianmo alligator. The alligator's abdomen was even more out of reach. As a result, Lu Huaiyan's approach became the only solution. Ding! Oh! After deciding on the attack method, everyone concentrated their attacks on the same area. The original hard scales were inevitably shattered under everyone's attacks and blood flowed from the back of the Qingtianmo alligator. Suddenly, the tingling sensation turned to pain, stimulating the Qingtianmo alligator as its snarls became more fierce, and its attacks also became fiercer. Thunk! Every time the Qingtianmo alligator took a step, a terrible noise was heard from the ground. It was like an earthquake, making the people feel shocked. With the fierce attacks of the Qingtianmo alligator, many cultivators were injured. Boom! A cultivator of the G family was swept away by the giant tail of the Qingtianmo alligator and flew backward. The huge force made his viscera feel on fire as his entire body was shocked by the impact. Ah! Another scream rang out. A cultivator had been bitten by the Qingtianmo alligator. Arr! The Qingtianmo alligator grunted as it chewed twice before swallowing the practitioner directly. A rich yellow light shone around the body of the Qingtianmo alligator. With the increasing number of wounds on the Qingtianmo alligator, the number of wounded cultivators was also increasing. I did not expect this demonic beast to be this scary. Bai Junyu's face did not conceal his shock. He had always known that demonic beasts at the Huang Yellow border were very scary, but he had never seen it with his own eyes. He had not felt how strong they could be. The strength of these cultivators was already very strong in his opinion, but in front of the Qingtianmo alligator, they were weak. This was the terrifying power of the congenital realm. Nothing will happen to the two teachers, right? Lu Qinyu's face was full of fear. In this group of people, the strength of the two teachers was not very strong, they could get hurt. Blood dripped down Lu Huaiyan's mouth. He had already suffered a heavy blow. Under such circumstances, a single careless move would cost him his life. I believe that with the strength of the two teachers, they will not be in danger. Xia Zhiqing murmured, both eyes staring intently at the situation, her heart full of worries. Dongfang Yu and Gong Shaoqing's face was dignified. This Qingtianmo alligator has been injured by the attack of so many people. I believe that it will not be able to persist for a long time. Only a fatal wound can kill the Qingtianmo alligator, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Chapter 496 Are they crazy? When Bailey Hongzhuang's words sounded, Di Beichan and she looked at each other. They understood each other's thoughts. In the next moment, before everyone's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichan had rushed directly towards where the Qingtianmo alligator was. What are they going to do? Xia Zhiqing could not help but exclaim. The Qingtianmo alligator was a demonic beast at the Huang Yellow border. With Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, fighting with the Qingtianmo alligator was tantamount to looking for death. As soon as this remark came out, some other people's eyes also condensed on the body of the two people. Everyone felt somewhat bizarre. The masters of the various forces had not killed the Qingtianmo alligator. What could Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei-chan, these two people, do? This Bailey Hongzhuang is too overconfident. Really finding death. Ji Yuner's voice was full of ridicule, her eyes full of viciousness. The scene that had happened just before had made her lose face in front of all people. Regardless, she must get it back. She was the glorious young miss of the Ji family. Being ridiculed so by Bailey Hongzhuang. Where would her pride go? I didn't expect that with Di Bei-chan's great strength, his sight in choosing women would be so poor, Ji Yuner said, her words full of disdain. In front of so many people, Di Bei-chan had not given her any face. At this moment she even hated Di Bei-chan. Di Bei-chan is acting a bit too impulsively. In such a situation, rushing forward is no different from looking for death. Huang Fuhui frowned. Even Lin Yi-ro, who had always been more intelligent than others, was somewhat puzzled. Could it be that Di Bei-chan had a way of dealing with the Qingtian-mo alligator? Judging from the current situation, although the Qingtian-mo alligator had been injured, it was still obviously very powerful. Once they rushed in, they would surely be attacked by the Qingtian-mo alligator. This was a reckless decision. Maybe the two of them really are confident. Yan Lingxian said as his eyebrows rose. He looked rather uncomfortable. For excellent geniuses like them, one less competition was not a bad thing. Han Shiling's face, that had been indifferent since beginning to end, changed a bit after seeing Di Bei-chan rush forward. Big brother. Staring at the two figures, one white and one gold, she could not help but frown. Originally, the person who could be next to Big Brother was only her. Others may not understand the strength of Di Bei-chan, but she had known her big brother for so many years, so she still understands the situation of Di Bei-chan. If he had rushed forward, Big Brother certainly had an idea of how to kill the Qingtian-mo alligator. Di Bei-chan had not thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would rush alongside with him. However, after seeing the confident appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang, a faint smile appeared on his lips. What they both needed to do was not to fight the Qingtian-mo alligator, but to attack. You go left, I'll take right. As they appeared in front of the Qingtian-mo alligator, Bailey Hongzhuang shouted. Okay. Di Bei-chan also yelled. The next moment, they two people rushed forward to the two sides of the Qingtian-mo alligator. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo saw that Di Bei-chan and Bailey Hongzhuang had suddenly appeared under such circumstances, and their faces were filled with intense tension. You brats! What are you two doing here? Lu Huaiyan's voice was filled with anger and worry. In such a situation, even if they were both in danger and risk, why had these two people rushed forward? The attack power of the Qingtian-mo alligator was so terrible that they can't protect the two of them. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled before saying, Teacher, don't worry about us. Chapter 497 is not simple. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo were both confused. In the face of such a dangerous situation, the two did not have the time to think too much. They only knew that Di Bei-chan and Bailey Hongzhuang were not impulsive people. Since they had rushed forwards, they must already have plans. Bailey Hongzhuang used her shifting shadow technique and had already jumped onto the back of the Qingtian-mo alligator. After the Qingtian-mo alligator felt that someone was on it, its entire body began to shake constantly, only wanting to shake off Bailey Hongzhuang from its back. Bailey Hongzhuang had a sword in her hand. Her eyes had been set on the wounds of the Qingtian-mo alligator. The next moment, she did not hesitate to pierce the back of the Qingtian-mo alligator using the sharp sword in her hand. Hey! A clear and subtle voice sounded, and Bailey Hongzhuang's body had deeply pierced the alligator's body. Oh! The sudden and intense pain deeply spurred the Qingtian-mo alligator, as it suddenly snarled and madly rioted. All of a sudden, the masters next to the Qingtian-mo alligator were all stunned and had to recede. Once the Qingtian-mo alligator went berserk, its fighting power would be even scarier. The people looked in horror at the entanglement of Bailey Hongzhuang and the Qingtian-mo alligator. Regardless of how the Qingtian-mo alligator swayed, Bailey Hongzhuang stayed on its back. Not only that, but the blade she had used to stab the Qingtian-mo alligator was still embedded in its body. As blood continued to spill out, Yan Lingxian and the others were surprised. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, their eyes were even more incredulous. Just climbing onto the Qingtian-mo alligator's back already required great courage. Not to mention that Bailey Hongzhuang was currently in such a dangerous position. My god, Bailey Hongzhuang is too strong, right? Xia Zhiqing opened her mouth wide, looking sluggish. She had never imagined that Bailey Hongzhuang would climb onto the alligator's back. Bai Junyu swallowed. If it wasn't for the scene occurring right before him, he wouldn't have believed it. The cultivators who were dealing with the Qingtianmo alligator were too afraid to climb onto its back. In addition to Bailey Hongzhuang, not many can do this. Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu were both silent. They had to admit that this method Bailey Hongzhuang had come up with was really excellent. In a short period of time, the injured the Qingtianmo alligator suffered had become more and more serious. Ji Yuner, who had been taunting, could not speak. In fact, such a move by Bailey Hongzhuang really made people feel uncomfortable. This Bailey Hongzhuang is really not simple. Huang Fuhui chuckled. The eyes watching Bailey Hongzhuang became bright. Han Xiling felt a hint of embarrassment, and negative emotions flashed in her eyes. She had always been conceited. She always thought that she could do this and that she was the best. She just did not want to bother wasting her time. Now, seeing other people's gazes, her heart was full of unpleasant feelings. If these gazes had been directed at somebody else, she might not have cared. But since the person was Bailey Hongzhuang, it was not the same. Oh! The Qingtianmo alligator swept away, and the ground cracked under the force of its huge till. The situation of Bailey Hongzhuang was also very dangerous, but she escaped narrowly and dangerously every time. Finally, after the Qingtianmo alligator could no longer withstand the pain from behind, it turned over. Chapter 498 Witty Lady. The Qingtianmo alligator turned to its back very quickly. With almost no sign, its entire body collapsed to the ground. Obviously, it wanted to flatten the nasty guy who was on its back. Bailey Hongzhuang's speed of response was also very fast. She jumped down as soon as the Qingtianmo alligator was about to turn over. However, everyone has not seen the sharp reaction of Bailey Hongzhuang. A pale golden figure had already rushed towards the belly of the Qingtianmo alligator with a lightning speed. Everyone present was aware that the biggest weakness of the Qingtianmo alligator was its abdomen. There was no defense on the white skin. At this moment, attacking the Qingtianmo alligator's belly was naturally the best thing. Laugh! A fierce light from a double-edged sword flashed, and everyone merely heard the sound of flesh tearing. Then, the Qingtianmo alligator's body burst as if ready to explode as it got ready for another round. The power of a Huang border cultivation broke out. After seeing this scene, Di Beichun and the others did not dare to delay as they quickly retreated. They all saw the Qingtianmo alligator's red eyes. All the people there knew what this was. It was the berserk state. This is the berserk state of the Qingtianmo alligator. Everyone should retreat. It was a wonder who shouted, but the people reacted quickly, not daring to delay by even half a second. They fled. The Qingtianmo alligator madly chased everyone. The powerful Yuan Li attacks were desperate, and the surrounding trees fell from its force. Damn! The berserk state of this Qingtianmo alligator is really very horrifying. Yinling Xian ran away while cursing. Di Beichun looked for Bailey Hongzhuang, who had jumped away just a moment before the Qingtianmo alligator flattened her. Both their attack had fatally injured the guardian beast. With the strength of Qingtianmo alligator, its speed was extremely fast, so they only had one chance. No matter whether they were successful or not, for now they could only leave. But, obviously he succeeded. One hand pulled Bailey Hongzhuang in the rush, as Di Beichun greeted her with a bright smile. Wifey is really witty. Your strength is comparable to a cultivator in the congenital realm. The previous move made by Bailey Hongzhuang must have looked simple to some, but it was not very easy to succeed in it. In addition, it was extremely dangerous. However, the performance of Bailey Hongzhuang surprised him. Although she was in such a dangerous situation, there was no panic. Her beautiful face was so cool that it was unbelievable. Your timing was also very accurate. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved slightly, her beautiful face gazing at Di Beichun beside her. It seems that the way they cooperated was still very good. The Qingtianmo alligator should not be able to persist for long. Let's take a rest. After running some distance away, Di Beichun sat near a tree trunk, his entire attitude relaxed and casual. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, She could feel the movement of the Qingtianmo alligator struggling in the distance as it became fainter and fainter. She believed that the Qingtianmo alligator must also be exhausted. Oh, the Qingtianmo alligator isn't moving anymore. Is it dead? Xia Zhiqing's eye flashed with curiosity. Previously she had felt the entire ground was trembling. If they had not known better, they would have thought that an earthquake had occurred then. It should be, but we will not go over at the moment. Maybe the Qingtianmo alligator is not dead yet. Gong Shaoqing said with a sigh. Some demonic beasts will continue to grow in intellect after attaining a certain level of cultivation. They must be careful. Chapter 499. If you want, I will accompany you. Previously I had looked down on this Bailey Hongzhuang. With her cultivation being just at the mysterious Ian, and having so much courage, it is rare. Yin Lingxian shook his head in exclamation. Before he had thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was really courageous with the way she treated Ji Yuner, but he had not expected her to be just as fearless in battle. Seeing Yin Lingxian's admiration for Bailey Hongzhuang, a touch of dissatisfaction appeared in the eyes of Ji Yuner, and her next words also had a hint of sourness. What's so great, can't everyone do that? Ji Yuner snorted. This kind of thing is not worthy of us personally fighting. As children of cultivation families, they had no need to undertake a task personally when the time came to fight. Ji Yuner, if you haven't eaten the grapes, don't say they are sour. Even if you do it, I am afraid you won't be much better than Bailey Hongzhuang. Lin Yiro said softly as she looked at Ji Yuner. Such an attitude, she did not like people like Ji Yuner. In fact, if Bailey Hongzhuang had also been from a cultivation family, she believed that Bailey Hongzhuang would be among the young generation of powers. Lin Yiro, what do you mean by that? Ji Yuner stepped forward, and a trace of anger appeared on her face. Since yesterday, Lin Yiro had been praising Bailey Hongzhuang from time to time. It was clear that she was taking the opportunity to mock her. What do I mean? I am just telling the truth. Lin Yiro felt quite indifferent. She did not care about Ji Yuner's question. Ji Yuner, you should know that with who I am, others may be afraid of you, but I don't have a reason to be. Lin Yiro whispered softly, an indifferent and cold expression appearing on her gentle face. Han Shilin looked at that conflict between Ji Yuner and Lin Yiro, a very strange feeling appearing in her heart. It seemed that although Lin Yiro appeared soft and weak, underneath there was a strong heart. Ji Yuner obviously did not expect that Lin Yiro would go against her, and her face turned ugly. I don't have the time to squabble with you. After we come out of the ancient monument, we will slowly settle this account. If you want to, I will accompany you. Lin Yiro softly raised her eyebrows, not putting Ji Yuner's words in her heart. Master, the Qingtianmo alligator is dead. Baisher's voice screamed in Bailey Hongzhuang's head. Then we should go now. Bailey Hongzhuang said. Master, I want the demonic core of the Qingtianmo alligator. Baisher squinted his small eyes, eagerly looking at Bailey Hongzhuang. Thinking of the Qingtianmo alligator, the demonic crystal of it was very good. The Qingtianmo alligator was a Huang border demonic beast. The energy in its demonic core would also be very rich. It would be much higher than normal demonic crystals. It would really be very great for him. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a bit awkward, but she had completely forgotten about her contractual beast who would gobble demonic cores in seconds. Looking at the light flashing in the starlight, yes, it was impossible to refuse. I am going to get the demonic core. Di Beichan looked at the sudden change in Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, his handsome face filled with a trace of incomprehensibility. Wifey, what is the problem? Bailey Hongzhuang slightly shook her head, then pointed at the little guy in her arms, saying, This little guy wants to eat the demonic core of the Qingtianmo alligator. Hearing this, Di Beichan also reacted. The Beast King always liked to eat demonic cores. The Beast King is still young. The demonic core of the Qingtianmo alligator will be no small help for him. We should get the demonic core of the alligator now. Di Beichan said slowly, brimming with confidence. Bailey Hongzhuang also agreed. She would not let go of anything that could help Baisher. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichan no longer hesitated as they quickly flew to the place where the alligator was. Master, the demonic core of the Qingtianmo alligator is very valuable. I am afraid that this group of people will not let you take the demonic core so easily. Xiao Hei's eyes had a touch of worry in them. For those guys' attitude, he was knowledgeable. Even if the Qingtianmo alligator had been killed under the joint effort of their master and Bei Chan, but because the strength of their team is not strong, it would not be easy to get it back from them. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were slightly dazed, a touch of sorrow flitting past like lightning, before turning fierce and decisive. Since it is something I want, I have no reason to let others take it. Her cold voice was as arrogant as ever. It is not easy to take away the thing that she, Bailey Hongzhuang, wanted. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang be so domineering, Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai also felt excited. This group of people had to hand over the demonic core. If they don't give it back, they will show them their power. Soon Bailey Hongzhuang and Bei Chan returned back to the front of the monument. The originally flat ground was now a mess, and there were more than one deep or shallow pits scattered all over the ground. It could be seen how terrible the attack power of the Qingtianmo alligator was. At the moment, the leader of the Ji family was cutting the head of the Qingtianmo alligator, apparently wanting to take out the demonic core of the guardian beast. Seeing this situation, Bailey Hongzhuang walked to the front of Ji Jianbin. This demonic core is useful to me. If you don't mind, give the demonic core back to me. As soon as she said this, the faces of the cultivators around them all changed. Ji Jianbin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, feeling a bit hesitant. The value of the Qingtianmo alligator's demonic core was not low, but it was not a big thing for their Ji family, not to mention that the Qingtianmo alligator had indeed been killed by the hands of Bei Chan and Bailey Hongzhuang. His eyes turned to look at Bei Chan, and Ji Jianbin had already determined what to do. A thing like this demonic core was not too important. He did not need to offend Bei Chan for it. However, just as Ji Jianbin was ready to nod and give it, Ji Yuner's voice sounded. No, this demonic core of the Qingtianmo alligator belongs to our family. Why should we hand it over to you? Ji Yuner looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Her sharp and proud appearance was clearly provocative. Listening to these words, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile deepened, her gaze sharp as a knife that she used to pierce Ji Yuner. From beginning to end, you have not done anything. What makes you qualified to have any say over who the demonic crystal belongs to? Not to mention, there were so many masters involved in killing the Qingtianmo alligator. Why do you say that this demonic core belongs to your family? Listening to these series of questions from Bailey Hongzhuang, Ji Yuner's face became like the bottom of a pan. At this moment, this Bailey Hongzhuang was still so proud. I said that this demonic crystal belongs to my Ji family. Ji Yuner did not care what Bailey Hongzhuang had to say. She had already made up her mind to act like a rogue. After seeing such an attitude from Ji Yuner, the surrounding cultivators all showed a look of helplessness. Although Ji Yuner was utterly shrewish, she had never been this capriciously mule-headed. They did not expect that in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, she would entirely become a troublemaker. If I say so, that demonic core is mine. Her voice was cold, underlying with threats of death and despair, a bright light shining in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. For Ji Yuner, this trash, she felt too lazy to even pay attention. For provoking this kind of princess was tantamount to evoking infinite trouble for oneself. No matter what, she did not want to find trouble. It was always Ji Yuner who took the initiative. Not only had she provoked her 3-4 times at this moment, she was still being unreasonable. In her heart, the anger she felt was inevitable. Listening to the threat in Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ji Yuner could not help but be furious. But after seeing the pair of eyes bleak as ice and murderous, her heart was shocked. They pair of big, black yes emitted endless waves of murder. Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was not as good as hers, but she still felt a chill run down her spine in the face of such intense murderousness. The beautiful face full of allure was also stained by the blood of the Qingtianmo alligator, adding a touch of bloodlust to the perfect face. Bailey Hongzhuang's brilliance was cold, and her pair of black, sharp eyes looked straight at Ji Yuner, who was unable to dodge. The faces of Yanling Xian and the others were also very strange. It was reasonable to say that Ji Yuner was more powerful than Bailey Hongzhuang, but right now the situation had been completely reversed. Bailey Hongzhuang's one simple sentence was full of such force. Ji Yuner turned dumb, which was strange. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo looked at each other. The emotions of their faces difficult to cover up. The aura of Bailey Hongzhuang is really something. It can completely suppress that Miss Ji. Fu Hongbo's face was full of doubts. Who is Bailey Hongzhuang? Even the daughter of General will definitely never be able to have such an imposing aura. Lu Huayan shook his head. He only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was not simple. I will give you 3 seconds. Hand over the demonic core or the consequences after that will be yours to shoulder. Bailey Hongzhuang said, and everyone was able to feel the weight in her words. She didn't want to waste any more time on things other than the ancient monument. Since Ji Yuner likes to find trouble, she did not mind disciplining her. Ji Yuner's entire person had turned dumb. She did not understand how Bailey Hongzhuang was able to pressure her so much, making it very difficult for her to even speak. Di Beichen's mouth was arched in an evil smirk, his deep black eyes shining with a little bit of appreciation. It seems that his fears were redundant. His wife had never been easy to bully. Such an imposing aura was enough to shock many people. 3. Bailey Hongzhuang held up 3 fingers, her expression icy. 2. Putting away 1 finger. The look on Bailey Hongzhuang's face was still indifferent, as if it was just a simple countdown. However, everyone present at the scene felt extremely uneasy. Xia Zhiqing deeply admired Bailey Hongzhuang at this moment. Previously that Ji Yuner had been so arrogant, but now she had been completely suppressed by Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 502. Ask you keep dreaming. Such a Hongzhuang is really imposing. It was difficult for Xia Zhiqing to cover up her excited expression. For Ji Yun's behavior, she had long been dissatisfied. Now that she saw Hongzhuang being so domineering, she felt great in her heart. What happened to that Ji Yuner? Why is she standing there without saying a word? Bai Junyu did not understand why Ji Yuner looked so speechless at the moment. You are not Ji Yuner. How can you understand her feelings right now? Gong Shaoqing's voice was very deep. Bailey Hongzhuang's momentum is very strong, and she has completely affected Ji Yuner, so the pressure on Ji Yuner is huge. At the moment, Gong Shaoqing was also awed by Bailey Hongzhuang. Previously, he had felt that it was suspicious for Bailey Hongzhuang to have such great medical qualifications. Now it seems that the background of Bailey Hongzhuang was not as simple as he thought. How can Bailey Hongzhuang's momentum be so strong? Yan Lingxian had previously only thought Bailey Hongzhuang to be a beauty. Now he changed his opinion of her. Such a terrible momentum, even he wouldn't be able to anything at all. In his impression, only the head of the family will have such a pressing momentum. Even if they say nothing, people would feel a great pressure. There were few young people who had this kind of momentum. There were even fewer people among their generation with it. It was too abnormal for Bailey Hongzhuang to have it. Huang Fuhui, Lin Yirou, and Han Xiling were all silent at the moment. If they said that they would never meet Bailey Hongzhuang head-on, they had to admit it at this moment. 2-1. After Bailey Hongzhuang said the last word, her momentum disappeared and Ji Yuner was relieved. If she hadn't kept warning herself that she couldn't agree, she would have already agreed under that pressure. When she thought about that possibility, she felt terrible. That was undoubtedly showing weakness to Bailey Hongzhuang in front of everyone. That is something she can't accept. Even if I don't give the demonic core to you, what can you do about it? Ji Yuner said strongly at this moment. She would not show any weakness to Bailey Hongzhuang. She understood it extremely clearly. You are not very bright. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips slowly curved in an enchanting smile, like a blooming devil's snare. 3. It evoked a deadly beauty, but it gave people an indescribable feeling of surprise. If you won't give it to me now, be careful, you don't ask for something from me. For her voice falling, Bailey Hongzhuang was too lazy to even pay attention to Ji Yuner and went straight back to her team. However, although no one had seen it, Bailey Hongzhuang had already sprayed a powder onto the body of Ji Yuner. As a qualified physician, her means of poisoning were also very good. She could often sprinkle poison onto others without them noticing it. Everyone was stunned by Bailey Hongzhuang's words. In their hearts they sighed slightly. Wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang just scaring Ji Yuner? 5. I will ask you for something? You keep dreaming. Ji Yuner sneered. This Ji Yuner is really overdue. Looking at her face, I want to smash her until she turns into a pig. Xiao He waved his fists in anger. There were so many white flowers, 6. They were particularly numerous this year. You don't worry, Master will not let that Ji Yuner off easy, Xiao Bai said somewhat proudly. He had been with Master for so long. He was also very understanding of their master's character. Chapter 503 Hurt. Ji Yuner Baisher's sleek black eyes sparkled with curiosity and intelligence. Their master was not a simple character. Her means were getting stranger and more numerous. Whether it was Bai Liu Yan or Liu Yu, they had all suffered at the hands of their master. They believed that this time, Ji Yuner would surely suffer. Their master had always been very decisive. As long as it was something that she needs, she would definitely get it. There was no worry for that at all. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferently at the ward on the periphery of the ancient monument. The light of the ward was becoming fainter as time passed. She believed that in some time the ward would disappear completely. Wifey, what did you do to Ji Yuner? Di Beichen's long brows slanted, as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile. He was very clear about his wife's personality. Since she was so calm, he was afraid that next there would definitely be a show worth watching. As for being the one to draw the shorter end of the stick, she had never been content with it. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile held a deep meaning. Deliberately being mysterious, she said, "You wait and see." Ji Yuner deliberately put the demonic core of the Qingtian Mo alligator into her own yin-yang pouch. Mocking, thinking she is someone great, but being able to do nothing more than talk big. Yanling Xian and the others stared between Ji Yuner and Bailey Hongzhuang. They always felt that things were not so simple, but where the problem was, they could not think of it. I keep feeling like that Bailey Hongzhuang had done something. Yanling Xian frowned. However, the scene before had happened in front of all of them, and nothing looked out of place at all. What could she have done? Ji Yuner sneered. There are so many people present. Didn't she just spout some meaningless words? It was just a bluff. Just now, under Bailey Hongzhuang's pressing momentum, she was pressured until she became dub, but now she was acting proud again. They did not understand how her brain worked. However, just as Ji Yuner finished with her words of mockery, her face became strange. Not because of others, but because she suddenly felt a sting on her body. How could this be? Ji Yuner was puzzled. This sting seemed to come from within her body and was piercingly painful. Ah! Ji Yuner could not help but call out. The pain became more and more intense as time went by, and it gradually exceeded her level of tolerance. Ah, it hurts! Everyone saw that Ji Yuner's face was twisted up in pain, and their expressions became strange. Miss, what's wrong with you? After seeing this scene, the practitioners of the Ji family couldn't help but ask. It hurts! It hurts! Ji Yuner shouted, and her tone was more and more anxious. How can it start to hurt without a rhyme or reason? The practitioners of the Ji family were stunned, and their eyes could not help but look towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Previously that Bailey Hongzhuang had told their miss not to come asking for her. Bailey Hongzhuang's was still looking indifferently at the ancient monument, and her eyes never stopped on Ji Yuner for even a second, as if everything that was happening had nothing to do with her. Damn, how can it hurt so much? I can't stand it. Ji Yuner's face was pinched in pain, and she felt pain in her every pore, such that she didn't even have a chance to breathe. The Ji family members were looking at Ji Yuner, and then Ji Yuner fell onto the ground. Chapter 504 Deserves It. Feeling the constant waves of pain, Ji Yuner felt them to be intolerable, and as the pain became more and more intense, even her internal organs seemed to be hurting. Even though she had experienced a lot of pain in the process of cultivation, it was all nothing compared to the pain she felt at the moment. Ji Yuner could not bear it as she rolled on the ground. Her luxurious silk dress had become contaminated and muddy, her hair messy and unkempt. If it had been any other time, Ji Yuner could naturally not stand such an image of themselves, but at this moment she had forgotten everything, only hoping that this pain would reduce by even a few times. Lin Yiro and the others first felt strange about Ji Yuner's reaction, but soon after seeing the pale and sweaty appearance of Ji Yuner, they understood that this must be related to Bailey Hongzhuang. Today Ji Yuner really looks like a monkey being played. Lin Yiro's eyes were full of disdain. From the beginning to the end, Ji Yuner had been troubling Bailey Hongzhuang deliberately, The final result was that she had been utterly humiliated by Bailey Hongzhuang. Speaking of that, the current Ji Yuner looked really pitiful. Yan Lingxian felt the same as he nodded. This time Ji Yuner really has been played. This Bailey Hongzhuang, although she is not strong enough, the methods she has are very strange, people can't ignore her. Huang Fuhui could no longer think of Bailey Hongzhuang as an ordinary person without a background because her direct method left even him feeling a bit chilly. Sure enough, any woman that Di Beichan liked was definitely not an ordinary person. If they underestimated Bailey Hongzhuang, they were only asking for trouble. For example, look at Ji Yuner's current state. Han Shiling's slender brows were twisted. From their point of view, Ji Yuner's current state had definitely been caused by Bailey Hongzhuang. However, just now, she never found any movement on Bailey Hongzhuang's part. So how had she been able to make Ji Yuner suffer? At the thought of this, Han Shiling became a little more vigilant. This was the first time she had felt threatened by Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang, what did you do to me? Ji Yuner endured the pain as she questioned Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's brows lifted slightly, looking indifferent as she quietly said, Miss Ji, you cannot blame me like this. There were so many watchful eyes, but I did not do anything. I do not believe it. You must have done something. Ji Yuner's eyes were hazy, her pretty face twisted in anger and pain. You let me get better soon, or I will not let you go. Despite her words, Bailey Hongzhuang was as placid as the clouds, as if everything Ji Yuner said had nothing to do with her. Miss Ji's words are really interesting, as if you weren't hurting now, you would let me go. Hearing these words, everyone was stunned. Many people laughed, unable to contain it. What Bailey Hongzhuang had said was true. Even if she relieved Ji Yuner's pain, Ji Yuner would still not let her go. In that case, why should she help Ji Yuner? Die, you horrid woman. Xiao He said coldly. This kind of person needed to be taught a lesson. If they weren't disciplined, their nose would always be towards the sky. It really isn't worth it even to kill her. Xiao Bai's face was full of disdain. Previously that Ji Yuner's arrogance had been out of limit, but it amounted to nothing now. Baisher, that demonic core should fall into your hands after a while, Xiao He said as he looked at Baisher. Chapter 505 means, Bailey Hongzhuang hearing those words. A touch of excitement appeared in Baisher's eyes. As long as he got the demonic core of the Qingtianmo alligator, he would surely have a breakthrough. Thinking of this, Baisher couldn't help his happiness. Once he had a breakthrough, he could help his master fight. Looking at Ji Yuner's expression, she must be in extreme pain. Xia Jiqing looked at Ji Yuner who was rolling on the ground. Even with her strength, she could hardly even speak under the effects of such agony. Bai Junyu nodded. It must be very painful. Otherwise she wouldn't have become like this. The next moment, a flower like a smile graced Xia Jiqing's mouth. Haha, watching her hurt so much, I feel particularly happy. Bai Junyu thought that Xia Jiqing's reactions were completely beyond his expectations, but in fact, he too felt that Ji Yuner deserved such pain. Hongzhuang is really awesome. She even taught such an annoying person a good lesson. Xia Jiqing's eyes were bright as she smiled. She did not have the ability like Hongzhuang's, but looking at things now, she felt very happy. This Ji Yuner's background is not weak, and Bailey Hongzhuang has offended her like this. I am afraid that in the future, she will be strongly retaliated against by the Ji family in the future. Unlike Xia Jiqing, Lu Huaiyan was full of fear. This Ji family had only come to the ancient monument for an experience. They did not bring a lot of people so others may not feel much, but he knew how terrible the ability of the Ji family was. As long as the Ji family wanted to retaliate against Bailey Hongzhuang would surely fall into endless trouble. You can't blame Bailey Hongzhuang for this. Just with the presence of Di Beichan, that Ji Yuner can't do anything to Bailey Hongzhuang. It looks like this grudge is impossible to let go of. His low voice a bit helpless as Fu Hongbo shook his head. Now the situation had been set in stone. No matter what Bailey Hongzhuang did, this hatred would continue. Now that the result had been destined, Bailey Hongzhuang naturally had no need for being more reserved. It was better to teach Ji Yuner a lot of lessons, to make up for all that she had lost. I did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would have such an amazing method despite being such a famed doctor. This is incomparable to normal people. Her pretty face was filled with emotion as even Zhang Yunfeng looked impressed with Bailey Hongzhuang at the moment. Although the status of a doctor could not surpass that of a refining pharmacist in the Shangxian continent, offending a doctor wasn't a wise choice either. Bailey Hongzhuang, did you poison me? Ji Yun'er's eyes widened, her face pale, the veins on her temple bulging as she asked unwillingly. You at the same time, the cultivators of the Ji family all glared at Bailey Hongzhuang. Miss Bailey, if you don't hand over the antidote now, then don't blame us for being impolite. One cultivator sighed. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was still light. This is really interesting. I didn't expect such a big family to pour dirty water onto other people's bodies. There are so many people present here, did you see me poison her? It's wrong for you to do things as you like, it's too unfair. Give her to me. Ji Yun'er sighed in anger. The hatred in her heart for Bailey Hongzhuang had reached an extreme. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang fell into their hands, she would make sure she never had a better day again. With Ji Yun'er's words, the cultivators of the Ji family all raised their weapons and aligned them towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 506. You will be unable to live, who dares? When the Ji family cultivators were preparing to attack Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen's voice rang. His overbearing tone was full of anger and murderousness, his handsome and unparalleled face covered with frost, and his deep eyes were as sharp as an arrow, directly shooting the cultivator of the Ji family. Seeing Di Beichen's appearance, the faces of the Ji family cultivators changed instantly. They were well aware of the status of Di Beichen, who would most likely become the next sovereign of Tiangangzong in the future. If just because of Bailey Hongzhuang, they were to anger such a promising successor like Di Beichen, it was undoubtedly very unprofitable to them. Moreover, they themselves knew for a fact that from beginning to end, it had been their young miss who was provoking others. If Ji Yun'er had not been looking for trouble with Bailey Hongzhuang would not have treated her like this. But now Bailey Hongzhuang had put Ji Yun'er in a situation where even they could not help. Seeing Di Beichen's protective attitude toward Bailey Hongzhuang, Ji Yun'er's face became ugly. Di Beichen, I have known you for so many years, but now that Bailey Hongzhuang has hurt me, you will protect her? Ji Yun'er's face was full of rage and paranoia. She did not believe that Di Beichen would rather offend the Ji family to protect Bailey Hongzhuang. Unknowingly, Han Xiling had walked over to Di Beichen's side. Her beautiful, lotus-like face was a little worried. Di Dage, you should be clear about the identity of Ji Yun'er. Isn't this a bit too impulsive? Seeing Han Xiling say that to Di Beichen, the expressions of Xia Zhiqing and the others all changed. Di Beichen wouldn't give up on Bailey Hongzhuang, right? Although they were not the children or disciples of a big family, they were still very clear on how they had only their own interests in mind. If Di Beichen dares to give up on Bailey Hongzhuang, I will not let him go. Dong Fengyu quietly clenched his fists. In front of so many cultivators with high status, he had still been acting mild, but as long as he was there, he would never let them hurt Bailey Hongzhuang. Lu Qinyu looked at Dong Fengyu, an unspeakable feeling rising in her heart. Her line of sight could not help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang in front of them. All the conflicts that were occurring now were caused by Bailey Hongzhuang, but Bailey Hongzhuang herself acted like nothing happened, indifferent. I have a sense of proportion, Di Beichen said with a faint voice, and then raising his voice, Hongzhuang is my wife. If you want to deal with her, you must cross through me. Di Beichen stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. He had already shown his attitude with his actions. Han Xiling's face changed slightly. She had not expected that despite her advice, Di Beichen's heart would be unmoved. It had only been a short period of 3 years. Didn't she have any weight in Di Beichen's heart? You. Ji Yun'er's anger was unstoppable, her fierce and vicious eyes directed at Bailey Hongzhuang. If eyes could kill, I'm afraid Bailey Hongzhuang would have died many times over already. If you dare to do anything to me, you won't live, Bailey Hongzhuang whispered faintly. Her voice was still indifferent, as if everything had nothing to do with her. However, when she heard it, Ji Yun'er's expression only turned fiercer. Bailey Hongzhuang, you still won't admit that you poisoned me. There is nothing I have to say. Why do you keep saying I poisoned you? Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged, her expression innocent, but it just looked abhorrent in the eyes of Ji Yun'er. Chapter 507. You are a doctor. If you didn't poison me, why did you say that I should not ask you for anything later? Ji-Yuner gnashed her teeth, her eyes full of flames. Had it been under normal circumstances, such an expression would have been extremely powerful. However, under the effects of the severe pain, she could not even say a word properly. As for the force in her words, it was almost non-existent. The cold sweat had soaked through her clothes. She felt as if she was barely alive. I am a doctor. Do you want me to see what is wrong with your current situation? Bailey Hongzhuang looked calm, not revealing the slightest bit of panic. Her serious appearance made people unable to find the slightest trace of it being a disguise. You are a doctor? Ji-Yuner sneered. Do you think the people present here are all fools? Hongzhuang is a doctor. She is a godly doctor with superb skills, Xia Zhiqing said. Not only Xia Zhiqing, even Lu Huaiyan and the others nodded. They had personally seen the medical skills of Bailey Hongzhuang. It was very good and could not be compared to ordinary doctors. Originally, everyone did not put Bailey Hongzhuang's words in their heart. However, at this moment, after seeing that even the teachers of the Zhonglan College were nodding in approval, their hearts could not help but wonder. So, was it true that Bailey Hongzhuang really is a doctor? You say that you are a doctor, are you sure? Ji-Yuner sneered. You are all in a group. It is only natural that you will help Bailey Hongzhuang. Miss Ji, what you are saying, it's not right. Lu Huiyan stepped forward, and his elderly face was a bit serious. I'm a teacher of the Zhonglan College. Why would I lie about this kind of thing? We could get into this miasma forest because of the detoxification dam made by Bailey Hongzhuang. Xia Zhiqing followed. With Xia Zhiqing's words, Lin Yirou and other cultivators' expressions all changed. They were well aware of how toxic the miasma is. If not for their families, they would not have succeeded in entering the miasma forest. It was also for this reason that there weren't many people from each of their forces. Otherwise, it was possible that there would have been much more cultivators. After all, no one could argue it was too much. Since Bailey Hongzhuang could develop a detoxification dam that could counter this miasma, it could be seen that the skills that she possessed were far beyond average. I had been wondering how they successfully entered this miasma forest. It turns out that Bailey Hongzhuang made a detoxification dam, Huang Fuhui said, his feeling complex. While as a cultivator, the background of their families was very important. Many alchemists and doctors relied entirely on their own ability. The development of the detoxification dam by Bailey Hongzhuang proved that her medical skills were not simple. Once this news spread, it would be enough for many families to offer an olive branch to Bailey Hongzhuang. I can understand why Di Bei-chan likes Bailey Hongzhuang. It is because she is a doctor with excellent medical skills, Yin Lingxian said. With such a layer of identity, Bailey Hongzhuang's value was very different. 1. You have been poisoned for a long time, but the other party has made this toxin such that the toxins will take some time to attack, and this will hide all relations that they have with it. Bailey Hongzhuang's tone was light and easy, her posture lazy and uncaring, not at all tense despite the fact that the other side had their swords pointed towards her. Nonsense, that is impossible. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. Whether you believe or not, it is your own business, but later it will get more and more painful for you, and you will start bleeding until you die. Bailey Hongzhuang gestured lazily, a bit of ridicule in her words, not the least bit worried for Ji-Yuner. Master, what are you going to do? Xiao He asked doubtfully. Others may not know it, but they understood their own master. This kind of a strange poison could only have been developed by her. Fool her. Bailey Hongzhuang raised a delicate brow, light flashing through her beautiful eyes, sly as a fox. Why should you fool her? Xiao He had some doubts. Now that Ji-Yuner's life was in their hands, there was no need to play around anymore. Bailey Hongzhuang blinked, her eyes full of wisdom. I want her to accept giving me the demonic core of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, and give it to me with gratitude. With her current strength, she could simply not compete with the Ji family. They previously had a conflict, so she can't let Ji-Yuner die. What's more, with Ji-Yuner's attitude, Shijawai would try her best to kill her Biji after she went back. Therefore, she must come up with a way to make the Ji family unable to do anything to her later. Sure enough, listening to the confident and determined judgment of Bailey Hongzhuang, Even Ji Yuner's heart was swayed in confusion. In the Ji family, there were quite a few other competitive children who had strength similar to her. There were many people who would fight her for her position. She was no stranger to poison, and it was not impossible for someone to use it on her. For some time Ji Yuner's mind was overwhelmed and she could no longer determine what to do. Doubtful thoughts flashed through the minds of Lin Yi-ro and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang's conviction in her words had even made them doubt the truth of the matter. Bailey Hongzhuang, you have to detoxify me. Ji Yuner was unable to think of other things at the moment. The pain in her body almost causing her to collapse. She had fallen into a state of weakness. If it went on like this, she would lose consciousness. Why should I detoxify you? Bailey Hongzhuang crossed her hands over her chest, her posture proud as she looked at Ji Yuner. She and Ji Yuner had no good feelings, on the contrary, they had had so many conflicts. Why would she ever help Ji Yuner? Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ji Yuner felt herself going crazy. This woman was really abominable. Di Beichen's eyes showed his appreciation and amusement. His wifey was really smart. The originally difficult situation had been completely changed with his wifey's words. Now Ji Yuner was even asking for her help. With just a few simple words, the situation had been completely reversed, and Bailey Hongzhuang may now even become the benefactor of Ji Yuner. Miss Bailey, we will have to trouble you to help our young miss in detoxification, the leader of the Ji family cultivators said. Although he was not a doctor, he could see that Ji Yuner's situation was very bad. It was very likely that Bailey Hongzhuang's words were true, and if they continued this way, Ji Yuner would suffer. I will save her, even after she tried to kill me? Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. I will never suffer a loss trading. 1. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the faces of the Ji family cultivators became somewhat ugly. The contradiction between Bailey Hongzhuang and Ji Yuner had developed to a point where any semblance of peace was impossible. At this moment they even appeared too demanding as they asked for help. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ji Yuner almost fainted. She couldn't help but think of the time that she had forcefully laid claim on the demonic core of Qingtianmo alligator that Bailey Hongzhuang. She hadn't expected things to come to this point. Could she lose even more face? Would she completely lose all of her respect today? Miss Bailey, the demonic core of the Qingtianmo alligator, we will hand it over to you, how about it? The Ji family cultivator asked tentatively. That demonic core was mine, but it was robbed by you. Bailey Hongzhuang was indifferent, her stance on the matter unmoved. The meaning of her words was quite clear. A profiteer, the master is definitely the profiteer. Xiao He said. He felt amazed that his master could still fool the Ji family like this. Firstly, she poisoned the other party, and then let the other party ask her for help, and then she made them thank her for saving their lives. Their master was really good at such calculations. Sure enough, she is our master. I feel really convinced. Xiaobai was excited. Seeing the shrill screaming of Ji Yuner, and the spurt of blood, he really felt very happy. Bailey Hongzhuang, you are clearly trying to con us. Do you think our Ji family will give in to you? Ji Yuner was depressed to the extreme. She regretted everything. If she had known the first time that she would face such a situation, she would have never taken the initiative to provoke Bailey Hongzhuang. Absolutely not. Just that now it was too late. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. I didn't say I wanted to take advantage of you. The reward I need for my work is extremely high. You don't want to give it, I don't want it. Her voice fell and Bailey Hongzhuang was too lazy to even look at Ji Yuner, who was still on the ground, anymore. You're such an annoying person. Even if I save you now, sooner or later in the future there will be people who will want to kill you. Saving you is a sheer waste of my strength. Such pretense. 1. You are still continuing to pretend. Ji Yuner screamed wildly in her heart, but she could say nothing with her mouth. Now Bailey Hongzhuang had completely eaten her. 2. The cultivators of the Ji family were speechless at this moment, and Ji Yuner was really helpless. Originally, they would have paid Bailey Hongzhuang the price required, but now because of Ji Yuner the price would be even higher. Miss Bailey, I have some valuable medicine here. I don't know if this will be enough to save our miss? Bailey Hongzhuang was indifferent and proud. I will not take the attitude of your Mississippi. Miss Bailey, I have some money here, you can go buy something you want. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the golden card, still unmoved. Miss Bailey, I have some demonic crystals and medicinal herbs air. The cultivators of the Ji family constantly superimposed their rewards, and each reward caused great shock to appear in the eyes of Xia Zhiqing and the others. I'll go, so many treasures, but Hongzhuang is still so indifferent. Xia Zhiqing's eyes were full of emotion. In the blink of an eye, Bailey Hongzhuang had made a lot of money. Dong Fengyu's eyes were full of smile. Hongzhuang is waiting for Ji Yuner to bow. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.